Come on. Cool. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. I think this is up and running now. Hello, streaming world. This is Ace McLeod welcoming you to the Gears panel. Testing, testing. Yeah, it's coming through. Hello, hello, hello. Right. Yes, good. Right, you can hear me. Fantastic. Thank you, guys, in the chat. Right. So some of you probably know me. I'm a mod from the Gears streams, long-time regular. And I'm hosting a Gears panel today with some of our most esteemed and accomplished content creators. I'd better just add them in 1 second. So this will go really well. Come on, computer. Sorry about this.
I won't go that far for me, but I'll take it, I guess.
Let's try and get that feed in. Apologize, it's going to look a bit choppy. Come on.
Yeah, a little rough. Sorry, you don't stream often though, right? Yes.
Be there. Is it? Come on. Still thinking about it. Come on, doesn't want to. Come on, come on. There we go. Yes, I see something. There we go. Right. Sorry about that. Yes, I'm delighted to be joined by the accomplished content creators, BChaps. Embry Star.
Sorry.
Hello.
Hello. Go on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine, man.
We hear you.
You guys want to?
Okay.
Should we turn off our webcams?
For some reason,
I
I can't see you now.
for internet.
Yeah, we can turn them off.
Yeah, let's go ahead and turn off the webcams. It might
Jack,
flagging
can
up
you
his
hear them?
internet a bit.
This did all work a minute ago.
All right.
I'm sorry, I had to type that in the chat.
So Ace, can you hear us okay now?
Hello.
Good. I see my mistake. Sorry.
I can hear you.
Ace.
Okay, this is the most awkward intro ever, guys. We're nailing it.
Yeah.
Really sticking the landing here.
That's better. Now I can hear them. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, I'm an idiot. Right. Okay, where was I? Let's try that again. I'm delighted to be joined by our accomplished content creators, BChaps.
Hello.
CogCouple.
Hello.
Embry Stard.
Hello.
And Neon Velocity.
Hello.
Brill. Okay. Oh dear.
All right. People say it sounds less laggy now, so that's good. Excellent.
Brill. Okay. Right. Before we get started, Raid Shadow Legends. No, I'm kidding. Sorry. I'd like to say a big thank you to these awesome creators for joining, and indeed all those in the chat watching and those watching the VOD later. Oh, I'm getting an echo. This is driving me a bit bonkers. 1 sec.
Yeah, just turn off your stream audio.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Bill, right. I have a plan. I hope this won't veer off too much from the plan. The main topic today is Gears 5 Operation 4. Our thoughts, feelings, what it all means, and the changes, that is, not the meaning of life. We'll get to that another day. We'll also take a chance to briefly and not too negatively reflect on the past 10 months of Gears 5 and maybe a little of Gears 4 too. We'll talk about the recent studio changes. We're hoping to look over the patch notes. We're still waiting for those. If they turn up while we're on stream, we'll try and get to them. Giving
live reaction video.
Yeah, live reaction video. Right. So actually, let me just switch this down to. So hide that.
10 months of pure misery.
Yeah.
And
pretty pessimistic.
So that one.
Jamie.
There we go. Right. And so that.
All right,
That's
there you go.
There we go.
Someone said, will we be taking questions from the stream? And yeah, I think we've got some discussion topics we want to hit on, but we do have the chat open, so we'll hit on some stuff.
Yeah.
So ask away.
Bill. Okay.
Righto.
Let's pop that up on there. There we go. Okay.
You're just stalling for the patch notes, aren't you?
No.
It'd be a long
auto refresh.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Looks like it's up.
Bill, that right? But I need to fix that quickly. I think that's.
While he gets that started, you want to go ahead and start on that first topic of from launch to Operation 4?
Yes. So, for the first thought of question, I'd like to take us all back in time a few weeks to the dev stream where Dana announced Operation 4 would be delayed a few weeks. I want to know what our mood was, sort of high-level summary of your expectation for Operation 4, and what did you think it would feature, and what would it be called? Who wants to start off on that one?
Oh, you just go down the line. You want to go, chaps?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go down the line. Yeah.
So I mean, I kind of expected it to be delayed because in all of the dev streams, he kept saying, "Oh, it's on track. It might be delayed by a week or two." And at that point, if they're saying it might be delayed by a week or two, I'm like, all right, yeah, it's going to be delayed. So it was surprising. I've also said many times I wasn't expecting a ton of maps from this one, just because they didn't make that shift to maps until like 4 or 5 months ago, and they say it takes at least 6 months to make a map. So it's like we might be able to start seeing the beginning of the fruits of their labor there, but we're really not going to be seeing most of that until I think it would be September at the earliest, which now means that would be Operation 5 in a few months, which they also confirmed. We've known PvE updates were coming. I really figured this was going to be I've joked and called it Operation Lifeboat before on Twitter. I knew they wouldn't call it that because it sounds like people are jumping ship and stuff. But yeah, I had high hopes for this operation in terms of them fixing stuff, but not necessarily adding content. It's not really, we need it. Rocky start at launch, and I mean, we gave them crap for that, but point being right now they're just trying to fix their mistakes.
Yep.
So yeah,
1 second.
That's my general overview.
I was fiddling. I hope I didn't cut you off there. Might have lost the last bit of that. Apologies. Sorry, I was just trying to
Any idea
adjust
how much of that last bit you lost?
my audio. Okay, what's that?
Someone says, "Chaps, fix your mic."
No,
That's not good.
Sorry.
You sound fine.
Sorry about that.
You think
No, it's obviously not going to want to
your
play ball with
computer's
me.
struggling to handle the bandwidth?
Right. Sorry. Yeah. BChaps was saying. Sorry. What was the last line again? Sorry. Can you just repeat your last bit?
Just the last bit is that we know we needed a bunch of bug fixes, and we know we need a bunch of content update or like increase in content. We gave them a bunch of crap at launch for not having the content, and they're working on it. There's nothing we can do to really speed that up. So, like, there's no point in continuing to give them crap for the lack of maps. Yeah, they messed up. They know they messed up, and they're fixing it. But they're doing the right thing. They're on the right track. And they are fixing a bunch of bugs, which is one of the really big things we needed. So, overall, I'd say I was pretty pleased with the announcement for Operation 4. There's a few things that we'll get into that I'm not too excited about, but overall, I thought it was a pretty good announcement.
Yeah. Good.
CogCouple, you want to go next?
Like I said, I think every operation is always exciting for everyone. Realistically, when it was announced, so much was changing at TC. Obviously, I think they announced Operation 4 after Rod had left, didn't they?
I think so, yeah.
I think over the last weeks, I mean, the delay seems to coincide with the release of the beta test they wanted out, and then you have the the multiplayer changes that got put into the game. So I'm guessing it was all done in sort of line with that. They obviously wanted to change the multiplayer before Operation 4 got released. But like I said, then it's what comes with the Operation 4. You know, we've been really vocal about maps. We want.
Is he breaking up for anyone else?
No, it seems fine to me.
Maps were like the big thing everyone wants in Gears. You know, as well as the bugs and the issues it creates. But I think that was the most sort of disappointing thing to see. But then it sort of stepped up a little bit over the last few weeks to see so much sort of good information coming from TC. Much has changed. The transparency seems to be getting a lot better. You know, and it's positive. It's a shame that the news hasn't come out yet, because it would have been really good to see what's coming tomorrow. But there's high hopes. I think it's gonna, like Chap said, it's the lifeboat. You know, we said that I think with Operation 3 as well, when they brought Gridiron to the game. You know, it kind of lifted the game a little bit, made it made multiplayer a lot more fun. I think Gridiron's one of my favourite modes to play on multiplayer right now. You know, it shows that there's the intent, but it's disappointing for the community that when this, you know, the delays are there and everyone says the same thing. It's to be expected. I just hope that this brings TC through and brings Gears 5 where it should be. You know, it's, you know, we say it is a good game. We are enjoying it. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's not unplayable, which a lot of people seem to address online. I think it'll be emotional.
Yeah. So basically, I'll just jump in with my quick little answer just to give you an idea. So yeah, I wasn't surprised the delay. Knew that was coming, as sure as most of us did. I understand some were frustrated. They really wanted to have it on time, but I wasn't surprised. And obviously with the summit and obviously the change of pace, I did think it was going to be kind of a light op. I didn't think there'd be a whole lot into it. I imagined it would focus on Horde, as it hadn't had a lot of love since the launch, and it'll probably be like Operation 4 Horde or Operation 4 Frenzy.
Right
So
on.
yeah. Okay, who hasn't
Anything
gone
else on that? Or you got any other feelings about it towards that? Okay. Well,
Here you go.
all right. Yeah, I'll go. So, I don't know. I kind of expected a delay. Just with everything going on in the world as well. on top of leadership change, on top of a summit, like, and they delayed the Operation 3 the first time around on top of that. So I kind of saw it coming. That doesn't mean I'm not frustrated at it like a lot of people. I think I've been very vocal about my frustration these days. But I figured it was going to be a quality of life change update more than anything else. Some of it I was kind of surprised with, but majority of it was needed. I just did not expect them to do as much as they did with this operation. I thought maybe we were just going to average one at best, but honestly, for what we're seeing so far, the delay's been worth it. But yeah, I figured PB would get a lot of love, and maybe some escape love, but I wasn't really sure about the extent of what they were going to do. But yeah, that's about what I think about Operation 4 before it went in.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with a lot of that, Embry. So while we're working on some technical stuff in the background, I'll go ahead and give my sense about it. I truly thought when they finally announced Operation 4, I assumed that it was going to be all about, laying the groundwork for the future, which is kind of where we are, right? Operation 4 is going to be more about, okay, we've made our mistakes. We've heard everybody complain. We, as Chap said, we can't continue to beat them up on it, but at the same time, it's not going to be forgiven or forgotten because it was a really bad launch.
Word.
You can look at it however you want, but some people love the game and think it's the best game, and you're entitled to that opinion. However, it was definitely flawed. So for me, I personally feel as Operation 4 was going to be all about groundwork, which it definitely appears to be. And my reaction was, well, we kind of knew this was coming. As I already said, I'm not going to beat up the dead horse about it, but studio changes. We had major studio changes at that in the middle of a development of a just released game. And then you have people in multiplayer leaving. You got all these other things. And I think the biggest thing for me as a player is in all the prior Gears of War games, I've only been all about player versus player, so multiplayer. But in Gears 5, I truly enjoyed the multiplayer experience. So my change and shift has been more into switching on over to Escape and Horde and all of obviously those tutorial based type of things for everybody to watch, because there's a lot of good in those player versus environment arenas. Whereas the multiplayer experience up until the most recent dev test build or playlist, however you want to call it, I was really like, yeah, I can get masters if I would. Like, this is not fun. And then you never know. Like, usually you go in, and if you go in solo or whatever, it's not that great. So it's this operation overall is all about laying the groundwork for future operations to make it more enjoyable and more fun for everybody. I still think we got a long ways to go, but it's definitely Operation 4 groundwork, not Brothers in Arms.
Someone needs
Brothers in
to
Arms, where you
Photoshop
can't play
that.
Dom and PvE, am I right?
Groundwork in arms.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
I like Chaps' one, Operation Lifeboat.
Thing
That
is,
was
though,
good.
every operation, it kind of comes out that it's the same thing, isn't it? Everyone says the same. Is this going to be the one that changes it? Is this going to be one? So the amount of information we've got on Operation 4 is 4 times as much as we got on Operation 3. So it's can only be good.
I mean, with the amount of information we got, it just seems so held close to the chest still. Like, we still got a fair amount, but we didn't get a majority of that until last week. And
Yeah, but that's the saying that no operation has had a whole week of streams dedicated to lots of operations. So like Velocity said, it's a big change. Something, it's a turning step.
Yeah. Let's not get ahead of us. We'll come back to that in the second part. We'll touch on this week's streams. So just thinking back over the last 10 months of Gears 5, there was some progress to be made. That it was worth mentioning. Things like Simple Omen, the attempts at fixing ranked, the new modes they did add into the game, free for all, gridiron. I mean, I did have on here 2v2 Nashes when I was typing up. Then I thought, well, no, because that was in Gears 4. But it's there's always been some attempt there. But if we take the example of the Simple Omen, that was something I thought was the least they could do, and I expected that to come in within weeks of the game launching, because the feedback was quite vocal. And for those of us who are on the tech test, we'd said similar things back then, hadn't we? But obviously they just really didn't want to let go.
Honestly, the Omen at all. I was shocked that they brought the new one in. People were overwhelmingly against it, but people are always against change. And once I started playing with it, I got used to it right away, and I still haven't switched to the new Omen that they brought in because I just haven't cared. I got used to the new one. I figured most people were just complaining because they didn't like the change, and they would get used to it. But I don't know. It's just me. I know a lot of people continued to hate on it.
Yeah, but the Simple Omen, or just the old school one as well, it's just, that's the thing with a new sequel each time, is you're allowed to change stuff, but if you change the wrong things or what people perceive to be the wrong things, people blow up at you. Like, that's just unfortunate that's the case, but honestly that's the case. Like, I could still attest that, Simple Omen and just the new Omen in general wasn't as bad once you got used to it. Like, it's still pretty, I would say cumbersome is the word, just because, there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of red in the game, so obviously, it still gets in the way sometimes, but, after 9 months, maybe, a couple more months if we want to add the tech test on top of it, we should more or less be somewhat used to it at this stage. So, when I jumped back to Gears 4 the other day, just because I'm like, well, I want to play more than 10 maps for once. I was just jarred away from with the classic going. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot this exists for a second, just because.
I think that's what people didn't like about it. Like I say, it's evasive to the game, and I know a lot of people that do the clips and the montages. They hated it, didn't they? Because it just blocks out everything, and it is crap. It's just, like I say, it doesn't function properly. It doesn't have a progression. It's just either, it just feels like it's on or off.
I mean,
they simplified it, which is fair, but it's not as good as the old one.
The fundamental thing was that they had a good system that lasted for many years, and they changed it basically for the sake of changing it. It did not need to change.
No.
I don't mind the new one, but there was no reason to change it.
Levos says in the chat though, they said it because it's that they brought that whole ice effect onto the screen, didn't they?
I call BS on that.
I don't know if that's true. Yeah, I don't know about all
because
that.
They had fire and all the other Gears games, just a little whatever at the bottom.
There's other ways they could get around the ice rather than revamping the entire Omen system.
It was like they were trying to show off some graphics or something. I mean, like trying to show off the new technology in the game, and while that was great and all, both of the new ones are so intrusive. One's less than the other, but as the point is, nothing's going to change. They've already said we're not going to get another one, but if there ever comes a Gear 6, I would hope that they allow the ability to have this or old. Yes, they need to incorporate both for those retro players like ourselves, and then for those newer players that just started with the franchise, because there are those players, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So ultimately, they need to allow you to pick how you want to play this game. Like you said, though, I want to go back to what Embry said. He said he went back and played Gears 4 the other day. I have not done that recently, but I have done it within the last year since the game launched, and I was like, okay, even that's a little intrusive at times, but it's all about making sure that the center of your screen is as clear as possible, not being like all this information being brought to your screen from the sides and like cracking your screen if there's ice and things of that nature, because it's like it's so hard to see that in a competitive mode usually. And it's just I don't understand the need to be so intrusive. Like they've already dialed it back. Why can't we dial it back even more? Like that's really what it should come into.
I think to keep the way I thought always what they should have just had changed it is to not have the outer red. If they just kept the center omen, made it a little bit smaller, so it was technically the same as the old omen, but it was their take on the omen with the hit markers, then I think that could have been a compromise. But it just feels like it's there now and that's it.
Yeah, that's yeah. I kind of envision that. Like they keep saying there's so many systems tied to it. Well, I'm like, well, if you have STEM, why don't you just have like the old school omen, have that filled up, and then you remember there's a shotgun pellet thing. So it kind of like I can see what they mean by it conflicts. Just when they say there's too many systems tied to it, I'm like, okay, well, you could fill the omen up with fire or ice or whatever it is you're getting affected by.
I mean, they did say that about the Nasher having 6 shots, and then now we're going to 8. So
that just tells you that they were wrong on so many things when it started. Not to be negative, but that just proves that point. Like you're changing fundamental things that have been a staple of the game since God.
They were challenging expectations. Challenge expectations. Come on.
Experience has been challenged, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now revert.
Hashtag go back.
Oh, don't start that.
Right.
I think when it comes to game development and sequels, it's fair to say that there's someone who's always got a drive to come up with new ideas, push the envelope, and to see what works. And I've got a fantastic idea, and yada yada. And I think you really need someone to offset that in the studio to go, hang on a minute, I like the sound of the idea, but I'm not quite sure how well that's going to be received, or we might need to tone it down a little bit, or things like that. You need someone to have that kind of break on it as well. And
there was definitely people
reality check.
Definitely people in TC
the reality
that did that.
check is like, they just weren't, I guess, high enough on the totem pole to do that.
Yeah,
because in terms of like, clearly someone else had to call at the end of the day. I feel like there's plenty of vocal people in there. Like, you know what? Maybe let's not do that.
Yeah.
So I guess on that topic, you want to switch over to that next topic you have there?
Yeah. So the final thoughts on that were, most of us are probably adapted to it and are used to it now. My only concern is when trying to pull back other players and new players and those that are jumping back and forth between the Gears games, it's still something that does keep cropping up and could maybe still do with a little more tweaking or toning down, but not going to get the classic Omen back because it's too difficult with all those systems. But I think we would all still probably want it toned down a little bit more for the other players, I think. But with that said, we'll move on now to the next one, which is the studio changes. And I'll just pop that up on the stream. And
the spicy topic. The spicy topic.
The spicy topic. Yeah, we'll try and keep it respectful. But yeah,
we'll go salsa. We won't go Diablo sauce.
Yeah.
All right. Are we just going down the line again?
I like alphabetical order. That makes it easy.
All right.
Or down the line. Up to you.
Or Ace. So Ace.
Yeah.
Is that alphabetical? Ace first?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm still seeing the first one for some reason. Why am I not seeing the second one?
You're going to have a bit of a delay between your streaming software and the thing. I would just... People mostly care about the audio anyway, so just go ahead and talk it.
Just talk, So, the studio changes. Obviously, we've had quite a few levers from the studio, top level leadership, and they announced that they had a summit, and they've reevaluated the direction they want to take the game in. And we've had an interesting change of pace this week for dev streams. We've had several split up into the various little components where, what's next with Alex Grimley. We had a ranked one with Jonathan Taylor, lead PvP designer, and then we had one focusing on the new store with Andy McKenzie, and then we had one for the PvE updates with Michael Shannon. And one thing I thought was quite telling was that they all had quite a lot of sort of passion and excitement about their streams and their contributions, and
Especially Michael.
especially Michael. Yeah, we all love Michael. And one common theme in a lot of them was they couldn't really answer why something was before because they weren't around then, or it wasn't their place then. I think was the sort of reading between the lines I think I picked up on there. So is it fair to say I'm getting a feeling of a lot of these systems were someone else's baby, and they tweak them, but they didn't want to like overhaul them. And now we've got new people who want to mix it up a bit, really change it. So over to you, BChaps.
Yeah, so I mean, everyone's thinking it. It's like, oh wow, Ryan left, and now all this stuff is changing. And it's like, I've talked to Ryan in person before, and he's a nice guy, and like he seems to know Gears very well, and he has these ideas, and he's doing what he believes is best. It's just what he believes is best doesn't really seem to align with what the fans want. And yeah, I wish Ryan all the best, like in wherever he goes. I just don't think that his views necessarily aligned with what Gears fans wanted. And same with like, I don't know how much Rod was involved in the development, because he's also one of the, I mean, he was the studio head. He's one of the people who left before things started making these big changes for the better. And I don't want to say Rod was one of the reasons things went downhill, but I mean, it is a studio under his leadership, and things found after he left. So, I mean, that's sort of the elephant in the room. Rod and Ryan left, and then everything automatically started getting better.
And
Otto. But
Yep.
yeah, I haven't really seen much from Otto.
Yeah. He's working on Hitman now, and I love Hitman. I think that's my third favorite franchise to play.
Yeah.
So that's good.
That's all I really had to say, is that like I think Ryan is a good guy, and he was doing what he thought was best, and he seemed to know Gears really well. Especially when I talked to him in person, we got in some really great debates. Like, they were respectful debates, and it's because he was able to talk about the stuff in depth. It just, his vision didn't really align with what I think most fans wanted.
Yeah.
Someone in chat said it was Livo. He wishes people didn't blame Octus, and I completely agree. Octus is
Liam
a
is
huge
not
fan.
the fault. Yeah. He has immunity.
He wasn't the one making the decisions. He may have done some stuff that I don't agree with, but I don't know what that stuff might be. But yeah, it definitely was not his fault.
No. Any OG fan who's been around since the Epic days would know Liam's one of us.
Community member, there's no way.
Yeah. Paul, you want to go?
I think, like I said, the main question for me would have been, who was making the decisions before Gears 5 launched? What did Microsoft want from the company? What did Microsoft want from the game? And then what was it they want the result? To me, it seems like at launch, the game was designed for the absolute novice. A novice could jump into a rank match and not be obliterated by, OGs and people that play the game a lot, to give them a chance. We've got all these assists in the game now that they say they've been in the game, but they've never been as blatant as in Gears 5. And it's only now that they're slowly being taken out of the game due to these people leaving. Who's responsible, we'll never know. I mean, it's not hard to sort of narrow it down. Like you say, everyone at TC done things with the best intentions, but again, they're owned by a company called Microsoft, who, if they say they want something, they're at the mercy to do it.
Mhm.
And if that means
That's just business.
the fans are not going to like it, I mean, like, when the game launched, it knocked Fortnite off the most played online game. So it was a success in their eyes. That was a success. Anything after that is just not, to a company producing multiple games a year. If you're popular that month, that's all that matters to them, I think.
I could see that.
And that was a huge loss for the Coalition, I think, is the fact that it was basically a free game for a lot of people. And like you said, it knocked Fortnite off the top spot. And it introduced a ton of people to Gears. And for the game to miss the mark that badly and launch with so many bugs at launch.
Server errors.
Yeah, it put a really bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And, like, they're not going to, a lot of them checked it out. They're like, wow, this sucks. And they're not going to come back for Gear 6. It was a huge opportunity for the Coalition, and it had a huge launch. It could have been very successful.
Does anyone know if Ninja ever completed the first act?
I don't know, but I remember
Probably
him
not.
in the stream saying, I could see myself playing this all the time. I'm like, okay.
Paid.
Sure.
Well, that's what he got
All right.
paid the big bucks to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to complain if I got Ninja money, but I don't know. Could I interject on a few things now?
I'm sure you were waiting.
I was waiting patiently.
I
didn't want to cut
spoon in his
anyone off.
mouth every time someone else talks.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Go
I like
for
to
it.
talk too much. But I don't know. I feel like the writing's been on the wall since 4, just in terms of the leadership structure. It's just like what Paul was saying, which I kind of completely agreed with. It's like, what the hell were you doing for like the 3 years you were in production? Like to get from multiple years of feedback off of 4 and interaction with all of us all the time, and we're a very vocal group. I mean, but that also means we're the loud minority. But that being said, all that just didn't seem to matter with what we learned in 4. Like, okay, well, we learned what type of maps people like. We learned what type of movement and everything. We know we had a fair amount of content. It just seems like majority of what we said either got misinterpreted or warped into something that technically fits the description but doesn't, kind of like a monkey paw wish. So I don't know. I was really disappointed out the gate, and not completely disappointed, obviously, but I was hoping this would bring back a lot of older people. I would say like the older generation who played Gears hardcore but dipped because it changed a lot, unlike the people who, like us, who still play even though it has changed a lot just because it's Gears. I feel like there's 2 different camps of that. Most of my friends left in 4 due to their characters not being in or the loot box system. So, like most modern gamers, you get one good shot at launch, and then everyone goes off to the next thing or plays a different IP. That's just how it is. People's attention spans are gone. So if we went out the gate with these changes initially, I feel we'd have a much more retained player base. So Ryan, from my understanding, like, again, he's a great chap and everyone knows he's really personable and he has the best intentions, but he's been told multiple times by multiple people, like Paul and the entire community, that what you're doing is not exactly working. Like, just listen to us. And now look what's happened within a month and a half. We've had this massive turnaround from a versus standpoint alone. So I feel like there any one person. You can't just pin it on someone.
Yeah.
But you could. It takes a village to build a game. So.
Well, they all have them. They all have a meeting, don't they? You can't like you say, you can't just pin it on one person.
No,
they sit around. They sit around the round table. They discuss it. The information comes from the community, from the play it, the silent majority of these people, and then they bring it all together and try and get a result.
It is also about the leadership, though, because if you have the leadership is supposed to surround themselves by people who can deliver like a solid product.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'll use Rod and Ryan. It's like Rod is supposed to surround himself by a PvP person and a PvE person, a campaign person, like all these people. And if they don't deliver, it's their fault, but it's also Rod's fault because he was supposed to assemble that team. And then same with with Ryan's role. I think part of it is on Ryan and some of his ideas, but it's also on him because he was supposed to create this team or run this team that can deliver all these things. And if it's not delivering, it might be some of his team members' responsibility, but it's ultimately his responsibility in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I also feel. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I also feel like Rod was more of a poster person than someone as involved as he is. Like I met Rod and I met him at that art gallery thing when Gears 4 launched, and he took half an hour of his time to sit down and talk to me, just one-on-one with like a gajillion other Gears fans, and like he's great, and I could tell some of that passion's still there, but like I could feel burnout. I feel like we could all feel burnout from any job and working on the same thing over and over again. And he's a very great business person, but I feel like his passion for Gears just was not what it needed to be and continued to be.
It's in a different area though. Like Rod, he enjoys the campaign and I guess the lore and stuff, and then he'll sit down and maybe enjoy like probably casual difficulty match of Horde with his friends or arcade or something. Like it's very different than the typical hardcore Gears player.
Yeah, that's true.
He's a big Gears fan. It's just not in the areas where most of the hardcore Gears fans
where it hits. I'd say. Yeah. I'm not trying to knock him down or anything. I'm just saying over time I could tell maybe his feelings changed and he had a golden opportunity. So
that actually leads. Yeah. So what you just said kind of leads me into what I was going to talk about. So in 3 months, right? In 3 months, you go from Otto leaving, and then Rod, and then Ryan, all within 3 months, believe it or not. Otto left in January, then Rod in February, and then Ryan in was it March, right before Operation 3. But I want to go back. But I want to go back on something with the Gears of War. Like I want to really with how the franchise has transpired since the sell from Epic to Microsoft. When for a good while, after Judgment, which was my least favorite game of the franchise, and everybody can have their opinion on that game. While it was good campaign-wise, I did not like anything else about it. But moving forward into Judgment.
We'll have to have another stream for debating that one.
Moving into the transition, right? I mean, as fans, we wanted like direction. Like, oh my God, Gears has been one of the best games. You had Gears 3 just come out, really just about 2 or 3 years before it went down. The transaction went down. Oh my gosh, we want Gears. And then they bring in Ultimate Edition, and fan feedback is like, this is amazing. Like, this is great. This is how Gears 1 redone in modern day is fun. Yes, it was great. And we got all the skins, we got King of the Hill, we got these really good changes. And then you go into Gears, and then you come into Gears 4, and overall, it's fairly good, except some weapon balance, in my opinion. And I actually have stopped playing Gears 4 multiple times because it just became unfun with everything else. But in particular, the weapon balancing and stuff kind of killed it for me. But overall, it was a fairly solid game. And then you come into 5, and it's like you had all these years, like we talked about, and we have really positive things going for us. And then it's like everything just completely changes. And it was like there was a mention somewhere, I'm not sure exactly who said it, but people got passionate on these projects that were making these decisions, and they didn't want to back down, which I believe might be Ryan and one of them. And so you're seeing these things where people just feel like they have emotional attachment because Ryan entered, I want to say right before January, somewhere between November to December, he was really argumentative and defensive. However, he was also kind of honest and open about why things were the way they were at the time, not so much now. But then, as Chap said, these people leave and then things start changing. So is it a power shift, or is it because some people have put out some theories out online about like, oh, they did this to milk the money, and then once they made enough, they switch gears to make it feel like we're listening to them, but it's already going to happen, and so what I'm getting to with this piece is the other part of the element is, yes, they have their decisions and their passion, but we as fans have our decisions and passion, or things that we emotions and passions that we really feel like are right, and like this is the only way. And I think ultimately we as a community are and I'm going to hear some shit for this, but it's just a fact. We are one of the most ruthless communities in gaming that I've ever seen. And
I was going to argue with you on
what I mean by that is, though, our feedback is not the proper way to go about it. I mean, people will just say the same things every time you go into a stream. Where's the skins? This is garbage. Where's my skins? Where's this? Where's the maps? Where's this? And like, okay, it's already been acknowledged. Like, let's get down to the real fundamental problems. We have poor gameplay mechanics in multiplayer. We have all these other things, and we cannot focus on what's truly is mattering, which is just the core gameplay mechanics, because we're so focused on these weapon skins that people want to claim and, all these things. But it kind of just irks me that we as a community have kind of let them down and led them astray in some areas. I'm not, like I said, it's not just their fault. It's also our fault because we're so aggressive. I mean, like, literally, I truly believe in my heart that we as a community broke Node Zero, Ryan. Like, the guy literally
I would agree on that.
That guy literally disappeared from life, and I don't have an account. So, I think we're overly harsh, but we need to do better ways of properly channeling our feedback. I personally am never going to be one that will attack or insult the community managers or those that work on the game. It's just not my flavor. But it's not the right way, and we're not going to see a game that's already small enough as it is. I should say it's so small. We want to see it grow, but every time we have things like the launch of Gears 5, where we're having top streamers, Dr. Disrespect gave a lot of attention to it with all his bantering about it. And then you have Ninja and all these people. So you're having these top profile people play the game, and then where are they? They're gone. But not only are they gone, they're not really the true audience for this game. You're not going to capture them. So I just feel like we have done a pretty bad job as well of trying to give our feedback to them.
Yeah,
and we literally broke the guy. Like, you got to think about that. Like, you literally broke a guy to where he's like, yeah, I got to go on a sabbatical hiatus, and then like he comes back for like 2 weeks at a time on Twitter, and then next thing you know, he's gone. Like, I'm not defending the guy at all, but I want to put this in perspective. It's like, there's a reason the game suffers, not just internally but externally with fans and the market itself. Like, if you really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a big part of that is, I mean, I know it's been something I've always been big about, is I don't feel like the coalition does a good job receiving the feedback, though. Or like, maybe they do receive the feedback, and I've heard that they are reading the forums and Reddit all the time, but all we get is we hear the feedback. There's nothing to really indicate like we are making a directional change about this.
Do you hear the feedback, or do you listen to the feedback?
This is a good point. So this is something that I also find distasteful, and this actually goes back to Chaps, because this was something I was going to touch on before everyone else actually was like, okay, that's good points. But I do not personally like this, and I'm not going to lead too much into this because of other things that we need to talk about. But the big thing for me is I don't like how we're doing a developer stream every day, covering things or topics, I should say, over ideas or new changes that haven't even been discussed, or what are we filling the time for? It's kind of like a cruel joke. So there's a reason why the community acts the way it does. And then when you do submit feedback, you don't get a response, whether it's on the forums or Reddit or the support website or whatever you go to submit your issues. Now, I know there's a few people in here watching that have posted some very detailed information on like the forums and Reddit and have gotten good responses, but they're few and far between from the developers. And, you know, like, look, I like to have a good time. And if I was in Dana's shoes, he's probably having a great time because he gets to kind of laugh and make fun of us a little bit, because like just in the other stream, he's like, yeah, well, I like to do this to them. I like to be cruel. Like I appreciate, I get the humor behind it, but as fans that are so fed up almost a year later, after getting close to a year and almost a year since tech tests, stress tests, whatever you want to call it, I don't think it really sits well with us because our patience is done. So yeah, I feel like this information where we're just trying to fill up time, like we have 4 streams in 1 week. Okay, that's cool, but you're not giving us any context because you put out a 10-second teaser trailer that's already when it's ready, but then you're going to put it out the day the operation drops.
And the operation
and the patch notes come out the day before, but no one knows what the patch notes matter because no one knows what's inside the damn thing. It's just like they're so off with like their communication level to us as fans. It just does not make sense why it's like, okay, I get it. You want to build up hype, but you're going about it the wrong way. Drop the teaser trailer, give a little bit of like, oh, here's a little snippet that you may have missed, and then allow us, the fans, to go crazy until you want to decide to drop the patch notes. It like feed off those popular games like Fortnite, Warzone, Call of Duty. You know, I'm not saying they're the greatest games, but they're popular, and we should follow some of their approaches to hyping up our community. Because right now it's like, yeah, I don't know about that, or I actually forgot about it. It's on the back burner. We forgot coronavirus, or well, can't talk about that. It's future content, and we hear the same things over and over and over again. We're kind of trained. It's like we're trained. Like, okay, we ask these questions, we can't get anywhere. So I hate. Like, why am I tuning into a stream? And then another thing to think about, and I don't mean like skins. I don't care about this, but you have to give us viewers an incentive to watch the streams. Like, esports is great, you get skins, cool, but that doesn't really matter to me. Like, one of my favorite games, and I've posted this in videos when I first started making videos, I posted it on Twitter, I've done all these things. The biggest thing for me is a community like MLB The Show. They will, every stream or most streams, they're giving away like, here's our roadmap, here's what we're going to do for over the next month, here's what to expect, here's your special playlist, here's what's coming, here's how this works, here's how this is going to work. And then on top of that, you have a chance to win like a signed autograph ball from like, you know, one of the, you know, from a professional player or a bat. You have these really cool incentives. And then they do Twitch drops to get exclusive character skins and things of that nature, which now that Mixer's gone, we can start implementing ideas. I know some people have asked for that. So it's just like piss poor, or like just from top to bottom. I'm not saying community managers are at this level, but Dana does have a say in some things. And optically and visually from the camera, I don't like it. Yeah, but that's where I stopped the line, and that's my rant about the studio changes. But also, like, it hasn't really changed at all either, except like gameplay wise.
From where we sit right now, the communication from the studio is abysmal, basically.
Yeah, and then one thing I was gonna say, and I'm not defending them, but I'm also saying like it also could be some big wig at Microsoft saying, "Oh, we have a marketing plan, so tough shit." You know,
if there's a plan, they wouldn't say last week that they're going to drop a trailer on Monday.
No, that's
say, oh, we're going to change on Tuesday.
That's I'm saying that, but I'm also saying like there's also marketing plans to also factor in. But
at this point, though, they got, I think, Guy Welch is, if he's truly the number one advertisement guy, and I believe he's a genuine guy. If he's the number one marketing, and along with anybody else that I don't know of, because I probably don't, but I'm going to use Guy as the example. Mm-hmm. He knows. He's got to know. He's been on this since basically day one. He's got to know, like, okay, we're fed up. I mean, the marketing guy, Guy Welch, goes to Reddit and Twitter and like starts defending the game, but also saying, hey, we've made a lot of mistakes. I appreciate that. But
I love that.
But I don't want to hear the excuse anymore. I want results, and like we all want results. Like, we're all tired of it. Like,
well, and it's not just that we want results. We know results take time. We definitely want them, but we want something to indicate that those results are actually coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, don't just say, "Hey, we hear the feedback. don't worry, we're working on fixing things. You'll see in the future. It's like,
Okay, cool.
No,
and then
give
if they
us
miss
a
the
little-
mark on it too, it's like, well,
If
that's
it's-
not what we want.
one thing I've said is if it's a new game mode or a new character, a new map, something like that that's coming out, we don't need to know about that. If it's some new thing, we don't need to know. But if you're fixing something that exists already, if you're fixing the story, you're fixing the ranking system, you're fixing class locked characters, discuss that early on. It's not going to be some surprise. Like, discuss it early on with the community and work together towards a solution instead of you missed the mark the first time. Heaven forbid you do it by yourself again the second time and mess it up again and miss the mark. Like,
That
Well,
get
how many?
feedback along the way.
that keeps coming
Agreed.
around in my
Well, there's
mind
no
as
reason.
well. Because
There's no reason that as a studio. Go ahead. Sorry, I won't interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's yeah, it keeps coming around in my mind that they keep saying, and you're right. It's like how many times they're going to keep making a misstep. Their attempts to keep fixing ranked, and the heart was in the right place, but every time it just, oh god, no, that's even worse. And but
Well,
but positive thinking though, we do now have like the beta tuning playlist, which was fantastic. So they didn't have to like change the entire
Yeah.
game to try something. Yeah, I mean, it still needs a bit of tweaking. BChaps, I think, said on Twitter, it shouldn't just be there the entire time. It should kind of try and focus people on a bit more. Maybe like for a couple of weekends, it's going to be this change, and I mean, I hesitate to say it should only be a day or two because people are busy and whatnot. But
Yeah,
a week
but
kind of seems
it
a bit
definitely
long.
shouldn't be a
So
permanent
yeah, it shouldn't be
playlist.
permanent.
Yeah, no.
So that's a nice new change, isn't it? That's recent.
I just want to add one more. I want to add one more thing.
Yeah.
This is it. This is the last thing. I was going to say this, and I'm gonna let it be, and we can move on.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yep.
Why is it every time there's like before Boost was the way it is now, which has changed slightly, ever so slightly, which we'll get into that later as well.
Yeah.
But when they started like the tour duty with Boost, like, oh, you get double the rewards. There's fundamental issues back then as well. And then what really set people off like myself is those that play Escape and Horde primarily now because of the way that the game multiplayer was played is every time they try to do these awesome like weekend style like double XP character or double XP profile experience of weekends, everything just goes straight to crap. Like servers break, things don't work, you de-rank, basics of the game's just not working, and then they don't communicate like properly of how they're going to address it, and then the weekend expires and it's like they expect people to forget about it, and then they don't remedy the fix by saying, well, we're going to do this. And the Operation 2 to 3 delay where we got like 2 free weeks of boost and all that, that's great, but that doesn't fix for the other multiple, which weren't many, but other multiple weekends where there's like these free activities for players to be incentivized to play the game. And like how are these basic what appears to me to be basic ideas just fall short. So I think back to the thing is it starts from the head down to the last employee there. That's not a janitor. So these things can't be overlooked.
Janitor has a lot to say, dude.
Yeah. So like these things have to be addressed. Like if they come back and they have another double weekend or something like that, or whatever you want to call it, and it just like completely melts the servers like it does every time, I just like I can't understand it.
So
I mean, I think. You want to go?
yeah, I just wanted to add on to that. So, I mean, obviously not a game developer or work at all on the Microsoft platform, but on live platform, I was thinking how much of that do they have control of, and how much is controlled by Microsoft's live platform, and whether it can cope with those sudden increases and event things. I mean, I'd say the Gears live service is quite nuanced, isn't it? I mean,
Gears always tweets out like, "Oh, we're aware of these issues. We're working on it."
Yeah.
So
Even
it's
in the
not
Epic days,
Microsoft.
they did that, didn't they?
I
Yeah.
just gotta ask: is anybody playing Halo? Are they saying like, "Hey, we have a double XP this weekend and right now on Halo 5 or something like that"? Like, I'm pretty sure there isn't. There's never issues that I can see. That just doesn't make sense. There, you got your 2 AAA titles and one just like falls off flat in the earth, and Halo's like, oh, well, I'm gonna keep trucking along because it actually works.
Well, it depends.
That's
We're
all
talking
I'm
about
saying. Like,
Could be
Shift
a
collection.
snapping
That
thing,
one's
too.
got
I
a
don't
pretty
know.
well,
that's got a pretty long history, quite similar, I think. I don't know about Halo 5 though. I think that one's a lot better. But again, it depends whether they get quite the same kind of surges. Really, they had something like it's a new playlist, and they usually take something away when they put another one in, don't they? So you could say it's kind of checks and balances whether it's going to be like a massive sudden surge one day. Whereas it's fair to say we'll probably come into it a bit in the other sections, but Gears and FOMO have gone together like peanut butter and jelly, haven't they? For
since the beginning of time.
Since the beginning of time.
Word.
For this weekend
FOMO.
only. For this week, get in while you can, and then the horde comes charging, and then everything breaks. I can't really think of any other games that does that, but that's just me.
Except AA titles, like I feel like AA titles, they can, somewhat get a pass. Truth be told, I don't think anyone should get a pass because, I mean, but you also can't say anything like, well, it's the nature of development, and that's true. But like, you're a AAA first-party studio backed by one of the biggest corporations, I would objectively say, in the world. So I just don't understand how some of the most basic things just fumble sometimes, or the experience has not, like, it just seems like no one's learning anything, or no one's being being proactive before an event or anything goes off. And it sucks because, like, at this stage, everyone is just not letting them I wouldn't say letting them get away with it, but we're not forgetting anything anymore. Like, anyone who was, I wouldn't say being peaceful, but like just being, okay, well, we understand. People are starting to run out of patience with understanding after, like, ever since 4, I would say. It just keeps on tittering off over live service type deals. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Cool. We can
move
on. Yep.
Yeah.
Real.
Moving on.
Okay.
Next high subject coming up can piss people off. Maybe.
Dear. Right. Let's hope that clicks on over.
All right. Ranking system.
Ranking system. That's right. New ranking system that had been touched on many, many, many times in dev streams. And it's still showing the wrong thing. Hang on, let me just give this a refresh if that clears it. One sec.
We've just got to wait for it to be implemented and go, basically. We've been told about ranking from the dawn of time with Gears. I don't know if any Gears has ever worked ranking properly. I think it's just got worse. The more I always felt in Gears 4 there was just too many tiers for rank. It was, we had the bronze, silver, onyx, diamond, and then it was just too many tiers per rank. It just got too spread out, too big. And I think that's where TC have found that this whole, like, we need to get everyone playing together. People are spreading out too much in ranked, so maybe this new rank system, they're going to try and condense it down a little bit more. The way you buy into use your points to get into ranked as well is going to be interesting. Like I said, I mean, I'm hopeful.
Yeah,
I'm not sure until we see it. It's got to be implemented.
Yeah.
Chaps, do you have any thoughts before I talk? Since Embry took a break for a second.
I honestly don't care about ranks at all. Like, in Gears 4, the only time I played ranked was because I wanted to play a specific mode, and it was only available in ranked. And that's the only reason I play it in Gears 5 too. Like, there's a couple times where I might sit down for a weekend. It's like, ooh, I want to like try and reach diamond or something like that. But for the most part, I'm just playing for fun. I don't care about ranked. I don't know how this new system's going to work. Someone in the chat pointed out was one of the, like exactly my thought about it was no matter how great their system is, quitters are going to completely ruin it.
Yep.
Like if there's quitters, the ranking system's going to be broken. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
Oh, and also so I did read their paper that Ryan published a long time ago about the ranking system and how it works and stuff and matchmaking and it makes a lot of sense with the machine learning algorithm, and it seems like it would be a really solid way to do a ranking system. And according to their data, it was a very accurate ranking system. It just didn't feel good to people. So
the eye test didn't work.
The what? Oh yeah,
like the visual eye test for the players themselves. Like, no, this doesn't look optically right. And so then they kept asking people like us to, hey, if this doesn't look right, let us know. Like, I shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if it objectively was a good system and it didn't feel good to people, it's like, well, okay, it's an objectively good system. It's accurately showing you your ranks. You might not like it, but it's doing what it's doing. Part of me feels like they should have just stuck with that if it was a good system and tell people to suck it up.
I mean, I don't know. From my perspective, the whole ranking, honestly, I feel like we never had these problems until Gears 4 introduced a ranking system. Like, maybe it's just me, but I feel like ever since this ranking system has even been implemented in the first place between bronze and master, all it has is just caused points of contention. If you really think about it, like look back at Ultimate Edition, they had quick play and competitive or ranked, and you didn't care about chasing diamond. You didn't care about that. It was simple. There was leaderboards, and then there was a premier. Like, one thing I like they're doing now is there is a premier definitive ranked mode for both respawn and elimination, which is what it was in Ultimate Edition as well. And that's one thing I really like about the new changes. But I feel like ever since they keep trying to put this in here, it's just not been healthy for the game and everyone's mentality towards the game. Because 90% of the time on Twitter, I just say your ranking system shit or whatever. And like, no one used to care that much about it.
I think that if they had some sort of leaderboards with stats, and they just got rid of the ranking system, it would be fantastic. I'm also going to add, Embry, you mentioned the way that they're redoing the modes now and that they have the one structuring. Yeah, I think the fact that they removed escalation from ranked is one, absolutely hilarious, and two, I'm so thankful for that.
Dude, I was so happy. I'm sorry for anyone this might offend, but I hate escalation. I said it.
You're not alone in that.
It's not that he's not alone, it's that he's in the majority with that.
For sure.
So some esports people going like, hey, in the chat right now.
Yeah.
No, a lot of them don't like
hey now.
To save myself hate from a tirade of esports fans, we should probably clarify that escalation and TDM are not currently in the plan for ranked. They want to spend some time and tweak them, and they'll very likely be coming back later, won't they? So I think
it's interesting that they removed TDM, being it was so popular. I mean, I understand why they removed it. It's just interesting that they removed such a popular mode.
It needed to be removed, honestly.
I want to touch on the ranking system a little bit more in detail. We've done some good surface level stuff, but something else that I want to really touch base on is Gears. I'm gonna go way back here.
Back in your day.
Back in my day. Back
in the Gears boomer day.
Gears of War 2 had a ranking system at launch.
I don't remember that.
Wow, you are going back.
I
told you I was going back. And you had rank 1 all the way to the rank 5, and you got wings but of course there was standby and lag switching and stuff like that back then because it was.
Oh God, I forgot.
It was one of the worst. It was a pretty bad launch for those that weren't a part of that game.
Your kids got it easy.
Yeah, that game it was unplayable multiplayer wise when you were shooting nashers at your feet and looking. You're not even looking at the ground. It was atrocious. But so the way that game worked, from what my research a while back was, it was really just based off if you won or lost. There was not any true in depth to figure out where you should be. I will give kudos to Ryan and the team that developed the system that we have now. And when we started, they went and tried. They tried.
They went to distance.
It didn't. Yeah, you got to the 1 yard line and you fell. That's just how it worked. And so I'm going to give them kudos for that. But now that the old system is going away, we're getting into this new system and we're introducing some stuff. And like I said, I'm not trying to skip too far forward, but at the same point, the biggest thing, and Chaps mentioned it, someone in the chat mentioned it, is that quitters, and not just quitters, but those that like to just stand idle or touch their controller and move 2 feet every couple seconds and whatever else, cause this game to fail in ranked playlists. I do, and I truly do appreciate the fact that they're trying to incorporate. It's like a community, by introducing the fact that if you use your rank points or whatever, the Gears points, because it's not coins, by the way, it's Gears points. If you
points and coins, right?
Yeah, it gets confusing. So when you use your points, you're kind of I don't want to use the word, but gambling away your points to go forward. But I do feel as if ultimately it's not going to curb the issue. I truly feel as if I do like the fact that you're going to be playing people within one rank below you, but that's all we've heard. I've seen people ask so if I'm playing with someone who's masters and I come in as silver 1 or 2 or 3 or
you're
whatever,
going to play with the masters.
You're
playing up.
But then it's there's not. But the clarity portion again goes back to that doesn't really follow suit with what you promoted already on a stream until we actually see it in action. So there's all kinds of issues that I feel are going to arise out of this. While it's a great step in the right direction, I do agree that we should actually get a true war journal back, like the Gears 3 war journal. I personally found myself happier when I was playing Ultimate Edition and those games, and I could see my numbers climbing the ranks. Like that. I don't care to say, yep, I'm masters, but if I go play this other mode, I'm piece of shit. I don't really care what rank you are, because ultimately your teammates and yourself, but usually I get paired up with a bunch of potatoes and I can't even win anyways. So the whole ranking system, while I give them kudos for doing what they did, and they tried. I do believe they tried really hard to get it right. They just failed.
I think that another big thing is that they want to keep encouraging people to play ranked and play with a team. But the team, my friends, the team that I play with, one of them is a silver on a good day. One of them's a high diamond. And it's if we want to play together, it doesn't work well. I can't play ranked. If I care about my rank, I cannot play with my friends, basically, because we are all different. Right now, I'm probably a mid to low Onyx, because I'm not playing that much right now. I could probably make it up to diamond if I really tried, but I'm an Onyx player. I play with someone who's a silver, someone else who's probably a gold or Onyx, and then someone who's a diamond, and it's no, it doesn't work.
That gets back to what I was saying. It's just I want to play with my friends. I don't want to worry about de-ranking my friend. It's adding an unnecessary stress.
Yep.
And if you win and you win losses, I mean, you objectively are just going to keep going up the leaderboards with or without them.
Yeah, then that's why I don't care about rank.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's it's just causing a problem.
What was the going way back, but not too far back? What was the system in Judgment? Was there a rank system in Judgment?
I was not around for Judgment.
I think it was just leaderboards.
I think it was just leaderboards. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I was
Gears 4 was the start of.
Gears 4 is when it started getting. Go get your silver, kids.
Gears 4 is when it really started with actual visual ranking mechanics that you could get classified in. They tried it in 2, but it was vague. it was hard to understand at the time because there was no clarity until later on, and then they dropped it completely.
Yeah.
And then that's when and so shortly after that, in one of the future title updates, that's when they introduced leveling, 0 to 100, and wings. That's where the other wings came into play. You got your re-up wings.
I think it goes back to what I said about the target audience for the game. You know, you get the ranks, and like you say, the bronze stay with the bronze, the silver stay with the silvers, the onyx stay with. Like you say, it just doesn't work when you have a party full of different variations. You know, you're always going to go against the high tier players, and that's when it becomes problematic for the game, isn't it? Because, like you say, a silver going against the master is just that's what's going to put people off the game. That's where it just doesn't seem to work as well as it should do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what comes down to having too many tiers and too many ranks. So like they go back to, I mean, like Gears 3 was perfect. I felt like there was no rank. It was just your wings. Just go for your wings. And I mean, if you go back on there now, it was the colours. It was like red, green, blue, and yellow, I think, and then wings.
I think it went up to blue, and then your last wings were yellow. I think that's how it worked. I could be wrong.
I don't think those colours didn't represent where you played. There was it didn't make you play with different, you know, the same colours. It was just that's to show you where you was in that position, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's like how re-ups are now, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wait, in Gears 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was also a little confusing back in Gears 3 with the colors. Like they tried.
It was also DLC too.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone remembers that. It was Phoenix Rising update.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I think you had to purchase. Yeah. Did you technically have to purchase ranks? I can't remember. It came in Phoenix Rising.
They changed so much, and then once those DLCs came out, they changed again. Once the game was kind of like standby, or not standby, but maintenance mode, I guess you could call it.
Wasn't it Chevron? Yeah. It was Chevrons on. What was the Chevrons on? Was that on Gears 2?
No, that was Ultimate. Ultimate.
Ultimate.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I want to drag you back to the present with Gears 5 from all the.
I told you this happened, dude. I'm sorry.
Thoughtful.
Well,
thoughtful memories.
It gives us a foundation and understanding of why things are the way they are today. Ultimately, is they have historical data to look back on from Gears 2 to today, and quite honestly, they have done great efforts to get us a true ranking system, but it always fails the test. So I expect little to none out of this one, but hopefully more fair. We'll see.
Yeah. So it's quite a departure, isn't it? This new one does seem like they've completely rethought it. I mean, I'm more of a PvE player myself. I was a horde player in 4, and with 5, I naturally kind of slotted more into playing escape. I would play versus for like the medals to complete the tour, and when you had a group of friends you could play with, because it was a nightmare trying to solo any of the modes really. You'd have to be pretty brave to even step into Koth. But it from the get-go, it was a ranking system that was obviously there was a lot of heart put into it to kind of really make it like the creme of the creme, the top 1%, the masters. That's what they were going for. You know, Ryan was obviously very keen, I think, for getting people into there, and Liam, I think, loved it as well, didn't he? You know, you knew you'd made it when you were in the top of the masters. But the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, as a PvE player, I'm thinking, where's the fun? And I'm thinking, yeah, it's great for you guys up there at the top, your masters, and you're playing against other masters. And I'm thinking, what about the rest of us who just kind of want to play? You know, I get stonked when I got into gold. You know, I was like, that's because I switched from doing a lot of support play to just, I just grabbed the Nasher and ran after my other teammate, and instead of trying to cover him from a distance with the Lancer, I got in there with the Nasher, and yeah, for some reason, and all of a sudden, I suddenly shot up into gold, and I thought, whoa, that was a sudden change. But I'm really keen now that they say it's looking more around, not so much the personal performance, although that does come into it. It's about a team win, and that's great when you consider that how many people aren't on an esports team where they're all Onyx Masters. How many of us do play with? We've got one buddy who's is the permanent bronze, who's never going to get out of it. Bless him, or her. And then you've got a couple of silvers, a couple of golds, and then you obviously got the one leader in the pack, haven't you? Who's the master or the top tier Onyx. And I'm thinking, thank goodness they finally sort of thought it's got to be about the fun. It's got to be about the team effort, And then you don't feel like you're competing against them, do you? You're sort of fighting for the national kills and fighting to get the rank with your own teammates for the system.
Mm-hmm.
Games are meant to be fun, man.
Yeah.
See, even in Ultimate Edition, if you had somebody leave, you're just like, whatever. You still had fun. I don't know how to explain, or maybe that was just me, but if somebody left, and it was also 4v4 back then, but if somebody left, I was like, okay, cool. And then they would just get slotted in. And that basically describes quick play, but again, that goes back to the carrots for I want to hit masters. And people think they're masters, but they're not masters, so then they get mad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think in the way it works, though, it's like it's if you was to say you're a PvE player, it's in the same instance that you want to be maxed out in Horde, maxed out in Escape. So it gives the PvP players something to play for, I guess, doesn't it? Something to go for. If you're a die-hard multiplayer player, then it gives them something to go for. But like I say, it just the way it works, it hasn't been implemented very well at all. Like I say, it becomes a battle. Like you say, if you've got someone in your team that's masters and someone that's in your team that's silver, then you like Ace said, it's a battle between your own players than it is the other team, because they're going to want to get the maximum points to keep their rank and not get deranked. It becomes no more fun then, does it? Because you're battling against your own players just to get kills.
Mm.
And the Gears points, I think when you think about it, it might help with the idlers and the quitters, isn't it? Because they'll end up knocking themselves right down to bronze 1, won't they? I mean, we're still waiting for obviously the community thing as well to come the next stop. But I don't know. I'm quite optimistic for it. I'm not being a PvP player. I think it still sounds pretty good. It might drag me in and get a bit of fun out of it.
Yep.
One thing I do want to mention is with those dev streams that we had this week, and Jonathan Taylor was on for the ranked one and talking. There was quite a few extra bits mentioned in the dev streams, not in the blog post, and some good questions that were asked. The thing I just wanted to highlight for everyone was they were talking about a pre-season. So for the first 2, I think 2, maybe 3 weeks of Operation 4. Is it 3 weeks? Yeah. That it's going to be a pre-season where they're going to be collecting data and probably fine-tuning it. So I would say stress to everyone, if you can, please do jump in and play. Give them a lot of data to work with, because that's the only way they'll be able to adjust it and tweak it. Don't just go, well, I'm not going to bother, my rank's going to reset, and then wait 3 weeks and then moan when it's not quite working the way you'd expect. Get in there, experiment with different ways to play. Try playing supportively, or try playing aggressively, and experiment, because it doesn't matter. Your rank will reset and you can start again. So I definitely encourage everyone to get on and give that a go when the launches, including the Escape players and Horde players. Come and have a go and see if it's more fun now. I hope it is. I really do. And we'd probably better move on to the next bit, which is going to be the store. And I really hope this is where I haven't lost all of these slides.
I think we all have something to say about this one.
To be fair, this is going to cover the store and the new currency system.
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, store. And
This is going to be This is going to be a fun one. This topic should be fun.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Well, I got a few words.
I got a few words to say too.
Back in my day.
Oh my goodness, I'm having to
2 days ago,
retype
before
these.
this update.
I don't know why I lost
Embry,
them
you
all.
want to start this one off?
Okay.
Hold on. Before we start, Ace,
Right.
is there? Hold on. Let me make sure. Ace, is there any particular questions that you want to aim at us to kind of like give some quick feedback before we just start going right at this? Because I know we all have something to say on this topic.
Yeah, I know. I know this one. So again, trying to maybe not just reiterate what we've heard on the dev stream, but try to read between the lines, think, how is this actually going to affect? What things do people need to be aware of at the start of the yacht? What things should they be doing now? And what we think it's going to mean going forward, because when you actually sit and think about it, this is quite a big change to the store, to the the economy, and the progression. It's a big change when you sit down and think about it. So yeah, if you kind of concentrate on that ilk, that'd be great.
You should put people on a timer of some kind for
I'll
this
try,
one, and
yeah.
then we can just
I'd
give
do
us
a
like a
little
2 or 3 minute timer to get your thoughts across. That's what
Yeah.
I would do, because then this
Speed
can
dating.
out. Yeah, we could do a little bit of speed dating and then circle back to like, okay, here as a collective group, here's what we think, because this can get
I'll
crazy.
say as fast as I can every single time.
I know BChaps and I have been pestering Dana on a regular basis around conversion rate and what that what that means, and obviously very reluctant to tell us, and saying you need the full picture to be able to appreciate it. But I think a lot of us assume that you'd start with the conversion and then you follow it up immediately after with what the kind of costings and things are. But I've actually been sitting back and thinking about this since. And when you think about it, it's not just scrap is being replaced with gears coins. It's fundamentally connecting what were two separate parts of the economy together, because the gears coins will replace scrap. You can make your skills. You'd then be able to get also the permanent content in the store, which was like the supply stuff and previous op stuff, and it'll also be a secondary earnable currency for getting the premium content, which is quite a headache, because when you think about it, the supply and the skills, rudimentary, 40 scrap for a common, 100 for rare, 600 for epic, and whopping 2,400 for a legendary card. But when it came to the store, it was a little bit more nuanced. It wasn't just like the card rarity. In fact, I'm not even sure that really meant anything at all. I think it was more on what they perceived the desirability was of that card, and of course whether it was a character which would be at the top of the line, or whether it was a banner or a blood spray or a mark. Although I think when it first launched, I think they considered them all rather similar, and the community rather loudly told them that no, a mark should not be anywhere near that, and they adjusted, I think. So when you think of it connecting like that, when BChaps and I asked Dana, look, we've got was it 6,000 scrap? That's enough for 10 epic cards. Are we going to be able to get 10 epic cards after the conversion? I think what he probably should ask us back, but doesn't want to. I guess that kind of depends on what sort of epic card you're talking about. Are we talking about marks, banners, skill cards, right? It's so I think we're heading for something that's going to be, I don't know. It says it's going to be generous, but I have my doubts or my concerns. It might be, yeah, it's generous for marks. It may not be generous for characters, but and we have no idea where skills are going to slot in with that, do we? So yeah, sorry, I've talked too much there, but that's kind of one of the idea things I wanted to expand upon from those dev streams and blog posts. So if I haven't said it all, BChaps, if you wanted to continue on.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna hit on that. There's a few things I want to hit on, but I'm just gonna start with that conversion rate thing. And we don't need to know the conversion rate, but we want to make sure that our buying power is not changing. And I feel like that should be a pretty simple yes or no thing for them to answer, and the fact that they're not answering it is really strange. Like, I want to know that I can buy this many cards right now with this scrap that I have. Am I still going to be able to buy those same cards with whatever amount of gears coins I'm going to get? The other thing about conversion rate that I find interesting is they're converting over totem progress as well, and it's based on the number of medals that you've completed for that totem. So one thing that I think they're really going to mess up, probably, I hope I'm wrong and they don't mess this up, but let's pick what Lizzie, I think, has 6 challenges to get that totem.
Mm-hmm.
If I purchase the totem, if I use scrap, I use 100 scrap and craft that totem, I now have 1 out of 6 things complete. I will get 1/6 of the Gears coins that it would take to purchase Lizzie in the new system.
Ooh.
But I've also spent 100 scrap already. I'm really wondering if they're going to account for the fact that I had to spend 100 scrap for that.
I don't think they're going to account for that, or at least they're going to.
I don't think they will either. But I've got some characters that I have 5 out of 6 medals for, so I'll get 5/6 of the character's cost in Gears coins. So I mean, I feel like that's reasonable. I've got a big Excel sheet set up, as most people would predict I do, so that I can calculate the conversion rate. So yeah. So on to the rest of the store. So when the announcement came out with this whole earnable currency and permanent store and all that stuff, I was really excited because it was something that I had been asking for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And as I started to watch the stream and as I read more into it, I got a little disappointed in some aspects. So the store is split into 4 sections as the permanent store, which is like the permanently available stuff. There's the new section, which is iron only for some things, but most things will be iron or Gears coins. The stuff from the operation, which is iron and Gears coins, and then the featured stuff. So at first I thought that they were saying that all of the previous tour stuff was going to be available at all times. It sounds like a lot of that's not going to be in the permanent collection. It's only going to appear sometimes in that featured section, which I guess I'm kind of okay with. But then we also heard Dana say stuff along the lines of it's not going to be the general level rewards. You're not going to get the Team Rock and the Blood Red Speaker, the Ronin Cantus, stuff like that. But then he continued to say that it's probably only going to be like the first, he said not to quote him on the number, but it's only going to be the first like 10 levels of the tour or something like that. So there's some stuff that's mid-tour that won't be available. And I've always been a proponent of everything should be earnable, like maybe exclude the general rewards, but keep all of the stuff earnable. And then combine that with the fact that it's only going to be in the featured section. It's not going to be in the permanent section, probably, at least not at the start. It's, again, pretty limiting.
Yeah.
So
it's still kind of FOMO. That's the thing you and I agree on completely. I'm just like, get rid of FOMO.
It is kind of FOMO. It's a million times better than what they had. I will give them that.
Oh, yeah. I agree on that.
It's not quite where I want it to be. It's definitely a good system. I think overall it's a really good change. I was really excited when I first read it. I was like, oh man, this is everything that I've been asking for. And then as I learned more about it, I was getting kind of disappointed.
Tempering your expectations there a bit, wouldn't it?
We also haven't seen it like the UI and like an example of like a visual example of what it is as well, so that also factors into it. Like, I'm confused. Did they say the operation content and they said operation content and what other content? You said there's 4 sections. What was the first section you said?
So there's permanent collection, which those are based on the things that are available for crafting currently.
Yeah.
And then maybe a few other things in there. The new is their like weekly rotation. Operations, all stuff from the current rotation or current operation. And then featured is where they're going to bring in featured sets. They might bring in, hey, here's some stuff from Operation 1 that you missed. Here's some stuff from Operation 2.
See, my concern was, so Hive Busters, Desert, and Winter, those all seem to be themes. Yeah, sure, but are they going to go into the permanent connection or collection?
We don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just like we don't have a visual or solid foundation of what is going where. And then the other thing I was worried about is I'm just praying to Christ Gears coins are not like Horde and Gears 4 again, because remember that was speedruns and Horde were the only viable way to get Gears coins.
Yeah.
Sucked the absolute fun out of the game so bad.
I have a feeling
Like,
there's going to be a lot of people boosting and a lot of people grinding in order to get this stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's with any earnable content, but maybe it's because there was an escape in 4, but with 5, there's more diversity of game modes, and I just don't want to be locked into like, well, I want to pick having more efficient currency per hour than playing the game modes I want. Like we're already playing tug of war with that with some medals, so we don't need that stacked on top of it. So.
Yeah. And so the last thing that I'll hit on there, at least this is the last thing I can think of hitting on for the store, is they say that almost everything is either purchasable or earnable now.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, you could not spend any money and get almost everything. But are they saying that almost everything has the option to be purchased? Or the average player, or like a hardcore player like most of us, should in theory be able to get everything with the Gears coins?
Yep.
Because there's a very big difference in, like, maybe over the course of the tour you'll earn 1,000 Gears coins to make up a number, and maybe each character costs 500 Gears coins. Technically, they are all earnable because you can pick whichever ones you want. They're all earnable, but in reality, you're not going to be able to get many of them. And I'm kind of worried that they might do something like that.
Yeah,
That's
a fair concern, I think. Mind you, devil's advocate from their point of view, if just making numbers up, if you were getting thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of Gears coins too quickly, and you're able to get everything in the store, you've got nothing to work to. So it's probably fair to say that it will be on the lower end to begin with, and we'll probably be back here on dev streams later on going, please increase the earning rate. That's probably not hugely out of the realm of possibility, is it? But yeah, I think we have to take it as everything's there, but you pick and choose, or you have to do an awful lot of grinding. That's kind of the Gears way.
We want to keep going. We want to keep going down the list, or do we want to just give our thoughts? How do we want to handle that?
Yeah.
I mean,
so because I have, and I've made this very well known, and it may have been touched on. So if it has, please let me know how to step away for a moment. Did we talk about the way for those that are not boosted? I have to go back to this.
No,
we did not talk about that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, all right. So I want to bring this up. I know a lot of people don't really care to have the ability to be boosted, but I do feel like the overwhelming majority of us at some point have acquired boost through some form of way, whether it was through like Rockstar or the Coalition or whatever. And with boost, there's tweaks that are kind of behind the hood changes right now that are very vague, and I truly don't foresee us getting any notification about this in the patch notes whenever they drop. But I want to make this very clear as someone who's been boosted for the overwhelming majority of their time on the game, is that it really does help you. And I'm talking present day, not just future day. In its current state, if you're boosted, you have a really good chance to get, assuming you've been playing a bit, to get supply drops faster, and those supply drops will usually end up in duplicates, which then translates to scrap. And there's a whole list of tedious things that kind of go into this. But the overwhelming part that I'm trying to get to is there's no way. Basically, it seems like there's not a true definition about how they're going to adjust or help those that are boosted, other than the fact that you get XP and you get your tour duty rewards, your daily missions faster. During the developer stream, they talked about how a lot of your Gears coins are going to be through your tour of duty with the new legend rank and things of that nature. And while that's fine, I still feel as if you're a boosted player, you should be receiving additional currency of some kind through those coin systems to take into account for the fact that there's no supplies or scraps, because you're not crafting anything anymore. You're making. So there needs to be remedies to that. And as of this moment, they were very, very, very vague during the development. And actually, I don't remember them saying anything. And then I took it to Twitter along with most of these people in this panel right now, and we were lighting them up about like, hey, what's happening to the boosted players? Like, if you're not boosted, it doesn't affect you. But for those who are boosted because they like the perks of boost, it affects them pretty dramatically because you're paying for something or you acquired something and you expect to get those benefits. Yes, it's changing and all these things, but ultimately what's happening is I would use those the scrap to ultimately level up my cards in escape or horde because of the fact that the prices once you level them up from like 3 to 4 to 4 to 5 were super high, as we pointed out. Like sometimes it could take thousands of scrap just to get to the next rank or just level up a card once. And so there's fundamental issues with it because it's going to start pushing out of the fear of missing out. We go back to that is you're not getting coins, you're not being adjusted for what you have on your account. And you guys feel free to chime in on this, but ultimately I just feel like it's an under the hood change that is kind of being overlooked because it did actually help those that didn't spend their scrap on certain things or make items. You could attain it a lot faster because you're not guaranteed to get if you're an escape or horde player, you're not guaranteed to get the cards that you're wanting. So I feel like there's issues at play. Yes, they increased the card drop rates, but I've looked at the new card drop rate, and honestly, it's still not that like impressive to me. But feel free to chime in on anything that I may have missed about why it's an issue or strength.
With boost, also like one of the main like draws to it was your supply drops, and then like let's be real, since there wasn't much in supply, it just turned into scrap drops, more or less. So, like,
you got increased scrap drops,
like,
and how that's gone.
Yeah, so like, what do we get? Just like for the tour alone, or Legends rank or whatever? Is that the only way, or do we get a little?
You're primarily going to earn coins by doing your operation daily or not dailies, but your operation like progression, and then it appears that's why they implemented a new one for Legend because you can just compete continually and to redo it or re-up it, whatever. I don't know how it's called because we haven't seen it yet, but redo that challenge multiple times over, which that's cool and all, but
like those PvE players they were getting most of their scrap from getting those supply drops over and over again,
making those cards through that system.
And now they're suffering if they have to rely just on the Tour of Duty thing. They have to basically change up their playstyle.
Well, yes, because not only that, here's the other caveat that we haven't mentioned yet, is those Gears coins actually are not just for unlockable content. You also spend those coins on these cards to level up to make your character stronger in Horde and Escape. And look, I know the majority of the people probably watching this stream are strong multiplayer folks. But there is still a whole another 2/3 of the game outside of campaign that play these modes exclusively. So we got to take into account that you're going to upset these folks. If we don't, and I say we, like I work there because I don't, but if as the coalition doesn't do a good job on addressing those folks individually as a community, because now you're saying, well, guess what? You can earn these Gears coins, and we don't know how fast you're going to earn them. We don't know any of that content right now. We don't know what the prices are going to be. We don't know how any of that's set. But at the surface level right now, I can assure you just optically with how I'm reading and listening and watching these dev streams and kind of how things have transpired on Twitter is it doesn't seem like it's in the best interest for those players.
And they're already getting the shaft right now.
Because there hasn't been any good Horde, or I should say Horde events. There hasn't been an event, and I couldn't tell you how long. There's rarely any double character experience weekends, which that's another way to get where you want to go. There's a lot of factors that are not beneficial to that PvE community, and I don't want them to be overlooked because honestly, it's a pretty fun aspect of the game. I know a lot of people may not care for it, but there's also a lot of people who absolutely love it and don't want to touch multiplayer because, various factors. So the story in itself, while it has positive direction for optically, there are still some underneath the hood things that are just like, okay, wait a minute, we got to really think this out. So I'll leave it at that.
And I think this really highlights some of the topics that we've already hit on. Is one, it seems like they're making these changes that have some pretty big misses in there that they may have not considered. And it's things that if they had discussed it with the community sooner and discussed these changes, people could have pointed that out before it was too late. And if they were aware of these changes or these issues and they do have solutions for them, it was not clearly communicated at all. And like, there's people like us who are very confused and worried about it. Just seems like transparency could have helped them a lot, and just communication in general could have helped them a lot on avoid a lot of the issues.
So for anyone who doesn't watch the dev streams, we obviously had a load of them this last week. Sadly, they're very kind of short. Normally a dev stream is about an hour and 40 minutes. These ones have all been around the hour mark or a little bit less, haven't they?
But these all had more information packed into that 1 hour
did.
than like
that is true. That is true. That's part of the problem, I thought, was there was so much to communicate and they kind of skated over things very quickly. And unfortunately, the store one was the one where they got their internet cut off and we didn't quite get to finish or get a real good run at the questions. And because it is tied in with the currency and with the scrap and PVE, we had some questions that kind of touched on the PVE, and sadly, it was very easy for them to just toss that aside and say, "Well, we'll talk about PVE tomorrow." But then I have to say, I was not expecting the wealth of changes for PVE on the Friday stream. I thought we'd get a chance to go back and revisit the previous stream bit, but there was just so much there that basically the whole store scrap and all of that just straight out the window for the Friday stream. We didn't have a chance to ask anything more about that one. There was just too much to process, and I think all the PvE people like me were sort of fangirling over what they were proposing that was coming. But on the store, you're right. Boost is a concern, and with the changes, and again, they didn't really communicate exactly the changes are going to be. It's only dawned on me afterwards when BChaps, Neon, and I were messaging Dana back and forth and asking these sorts of questions that some of it really kind of started to dawn on us. Things like that there is not going to be any scrap. There's not going to be any supply. When you finish Waves of Horde or a rank match or whatever, you're not going to get that supply drop at the end. Everyone loves it when you get 150 scrap pop up at the end. That's probably one of the most enjoyable things, isn't it? It's like, way jackpot. That's just not going to be there anymore. Now it's going to be you just earn coins through the tour duty, and then you can go and exchange them and get what you want inside the store, including what up until now has been just like a separate area for skills and supply. It's now all mingled in there together, and it's a huge change. And they really skated on some things like. They said, well, we wanted to streamline it, we wanted to simplify it. We also wanted players to be able to play the game modes they want, but still unlock the rewards they want. And take an example, Escape leaderboards. They said you'll be earning Gears coins in that. I mean, I may be a little bit alarmist, but I think it's to me like they're going to get rid of any and all skins out of the Escape leaderboards. It's just going to be quantities of Gears coins, and then the typical skins they would do are going to be in the store, and you can get them doing Escape leaderboards, or you could get them progressing through ranks in versus ranked, or by completing the tour duty, and that's going to be quite a change. I'm not sure people are going to realize things like that until after they get their hands on it tomorrow and start playing and go, wow, okay, this is really different.
To piggyback onto what you're saying is, I actually, while you were speaking on this, is I went back to Dana's Twitter account and I decided to look at his replies. And anybody can go do this right now. Is if you go look at his most recent replies, is if you scroll down just a little bit, not much at all, you're going to see you, Ace, you're going to see BChaps, you're going to see me, and we're all hitting him on the store topics. And I'm going to start with just, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I want to stress this. And so I'm kind of going to read a little bit of this to paint maybe a little bit more of a clear picture with just how we're being answered and why this doesn't optically look good in the long run. In the short term, it looks great, but for certain folks, this is not a great change in my opinion. I tweeted basically saying scrap was earnable through duplicates. If supply is gone, is supply drops gone too? Because when you go look up Boost, it offers 3 things: double multiplayer experience, double character XP in Escape and Horde, and most importantly, double speed of supply drop progression. And so Dana replied back to me, and he goes, all he said was, I just confirmed with Andy, and he said the new system is balanced to accommodate scenarios like this. What? I okay, great, but how?
Sure.
It's very open-ended. Anybody want to add anything to that before I continue on?
Yeah.
With
So
With a lot of his
clarify-
responses. Go ahead.
I was just going to clarify. So the supply drops, when you log into the game and you get your daily supply drop, you see the little cold gear pop up, and it goes around. For those non-boosted, it goes around so ever much, and then if you've managed to fill up a whole one, it gives you a card, or if you've got it and it's a duplicate, then you get a scrap. If you've got boost, then you see it move however far around it's going to go, and then you get the same amount of movement again, but this time it's blue and boosted. So you usually, more than not, will get something for that day. And again, it could be a card you're missing, or it'll be a card you got and you get the scrap for it. So you're seeing that it's a daily check-in, isn't it? It's a day. I'm trying to think. It's in a lot of other games.
The minute you log into the game, you see it move,
Yeah.
and you see it after you finish like an escape hive or a horde match as well.
Yeah.
Even versus sometimes.
Yeah, versus sometimes as well. So,
So
then
I think our
then
first
chat-
initial
so, yeah.
concern was that's gone. We would have probably liked to have expected to see it's still there, but instead of it awarding a card or scrap, it would have given you a little couple of coins. You could have a little sound effect, ching ching ching,
Yep.
into a bag or something.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be a
So
lot.
then-
It's
yeah, go
just something, isn't it? Because the mechanics are there. It's something we've all grown accustomed and used to, and you could say that they're simplifying it, but at the same time, you want to feel this constant reward, don't you? You're logged into the game. Oh, good for you. Here you go, some coins, and you finish a match, or you finish some waves, or or an escape hive. Here you go, it's some more scrap, or
you
at least
want
to see the bar
optically
move.
see these things.
Yeah.
You optically want to see these things, and then they continue to say, and I'll just go back into this, and we can move on. Is Chaps and Ace then also tweet at Dana? Tight end is Dana says, well, we don't want to talk about the conversion rate because it doesn't mean anything without context of the complete store. But
That
we've
doesn't
also made.
ring well.
But then he says, that being said, the team has worked hard to make sure the conversion is generous. Okay, well, who is it generous for? Is it generous for the coalition? Is it generous for us players? Like that definition, it could be loose depending on the optics and how actually things play out. And then they talk about how earn rates in the tour are also a factor, as is the cost of store items. But of course, something to think about is we as the players do not set any of this stuff. So who is it truly beneficial for? And that's where it comes into the way that you spend your Gears coins, and you have banners, you have sprays, you have character skins, you have cards, you have all these things, and they all cost so much. And if you're thinking things are generous, what's the true definition? Yes, I just expect. I guarantee we'll have. We're gonna. I truly feel in my heart that we'll have issues with Gears coins as we see this play out over the next few years.
Yeah.
Optically, it's a good change, and I think it's the best thing they could have done is to allow us to have the ability to go back and get some of these items. But I think in the end, we're going to be right back where we were. Is it's such a grind. Like something to think about, and I've said this on Twitter as well. And this is the last piece: is that we as a community ultimately hated grinding totems. If you hated grinding totems, I truly feel you're gonna hate grinding Gears coins.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Which will probably be harder to obtain than a totem.
I mean, at least from from a simplicity standpoint, it's going to be easier because I got my little brother-in-law in the gears recently, and he doesn't throw iron because he's just a kid, but I had to explain the totem system and what scrap was and all that. I'm like, okay, so first you have to get the scrap to make the totem to make the thing, and he's like, what? So that barrier of entry at least is a lot better now. Like that's one positive I'll say out of all of this.
So I guess one last thing I wanted to throw in there on those tweets is that I really, with a lot of the responses we get, I get the feeling that it's like he doesn't understand or he misinterprets what our question is, or if he does understand it, he is not answering it clearly to indicate that, or like he's not giving us a real answer.
Yep. It's always beating around the bush or subliminal type stuff, in my opinion. But
I mean, it's public relations.
I want to focus on the chat for a second because I know we've done a little bit of that, but I really see some things going around like, I want to grind though, but a fun grind. Well, there's got to be definitions on what the community wants in terms of a grind. What's a fun grind to you? Experience grinding or experience grinding with weapon challenges? Because there's a limitation to the type of grinding that Gears of War can offer.
People play and like people don't want to grind. It's not like grinding isn't necessarily something people want to do. They don't want to go do the same thing over and over again in order to accomplish a certain goal. Yep. They just want to enjoy playing the game and they want to feel like they're getting something out of it. So if the coalition can put a cap on the number of Gears coins that you can earn per day, for example, and it's a reasonable number that people can go and play for, like, 3 hours. Most people can't put in 3 hours a day, but if you put in 3 hours a day, you'll reach that cap. It's something that people can go play however they want to play. They reach that cap, and then those who want to keep going after that, you're going for fun. You're not going to be exploiting the system and getting an infinite number of coins.
Well, so we talk about grind, right? Here's another thing to think about, and this kind of just dawned on me since this conversation has been going on. Seriously 3.0. Like, in order to get an achievement like that, look at what you had to do to get an achievement or certain, what was those called? Like little markers or whatever to display next medals, like to get those medals.
I thought that was a bit much.
That was excessive, right? But someone actually alluded to like, grind, actually it was Leadbane, like, I got to get 150 executions with this weapon to do something. Is that realistic? Like, that's what the community needs to be very vocal about. Like, what type of things do you want to grind? Like, that's why I put out the totem systems, because the totem system was originally 60,000 XP plus the weapon challenges. Then you unlocked your character. Then it became 30,000, do your challenges. Now it's just XP based, which probably now is completely gone because the totem system is gone. So, there's who are we appealing to? I think your seriously style achievement people, your completionists, there should be something for them, like maybe an achievement or something, like some type of unlockable that's tied to that, like the Gears of War gamer tag when you got, or gamer picture when you got like seriously 1.0. I'm just kind of shooting stuff out like in a concept, but like in order to unlock these objectives and things, it's got to be in moderation, but it can't be like over the top, like seriously 3.0 style stuff either. So that's why I said it's got to be put in perspective. And I hope that the coalition has a good understanding of what that perspective is, because if not, the community needs to speak up on what it is.
All right. I think we've hit on these unlocks and store things a ton. You want to move to the PvE stuff? Maybe by the time we finish PvE, the patch notes will be out.
Maybe they will be. Yeah.
Unlikely.
Like 4 hours.
Unlikely.
Paul, can you say anything at all for the store?
It's pretty much the same situations everyone else has spoken about. The only thing that I picked up on the streams was what Dana stated. He said about iron. Iron will still be around because this whole argument that they need that to make future content, that to me would indicate that premium characters are still going to be purchasable in the store. So to use your gear points to buy those, I reckon you're going to talk a lot of points, coins. You're right. It's gonna be
So-
a
make you
lot.
question it.
Yeah. Sadly, there's still quite a bit more I'd like to do on the store. I don't hear a lot of
We've been at
groans
it for a minute now.
from people. Yeah, I think from what I understand, the new section of the store, which is kind of like our weekly at the moment, is going to have items in it for iron purchase only. But there might be some in there that are gears coins as well. But there'll
Some will
definitely
be iron only.
some will be iron only. Then when the week's done and they shift into the operation area, I think they'll then get an iron cost as well. Sorry, a gears coins cost as well. And obviously, what we're not taking into account is the esports content is probably going to largely remain well. Actually, no, it's not unchanged. It's going to be real money only. So some of the people in the chat, in the stream chat, the dev stream chat, were a bit unhappy at the news as they've amassed a lot of iron for purchasing chrome steel characters, and obviously now they won't be able to do that anymore from tomorrow onwards, which was obviously a bit of a kick in the teeth for them.
Chrome steel is still purchasable by iron. I think chrome steel is still exempt. It's the only one that's exempt, isn't it?
No, they
Is
said
it?
it's cash only now.
Yeah. So you used iron for chrome steel only.
I think that is the problem.
I think
But,
what they said is that the iron they still want people to use iron. Iron is the premium currency they want you to use. So they're going to put say next week Anya comes out, Anya Chrome Steel comes out or something like that. That's going to be iron only, and then a couple of weeks later on it may then go into the store to use on Gear Coins, but they still want you to use iron.
You can get it faster if you pay with money. Otherwise, you can get it with your coins eventually.
yeah, which is not.
And that's
surprising, that's fine.
We've always said like it's fine. The stores, just every game has a store. It's just the problem with Gear Store. It's just not. It's not good value. It's really ruthless on what they do with the skins. A set of skins comes out one day, 500 iron. Then the next day, 500 iron. It's before you know it, that's $20 or whatever it is. The conversion is. You've just gone on skins.
I would like to see, before we move into the next subject, like something from the coalition won't do it, I should say. Someone from the community. I know someone at one point when the game first launched, like they were like, "Oh, we have $750 worth of
that was hilarious."
Content. Yeah, like I would like to see that updated with everything that's been released, which would be quite hard to compile by now. But I would like to see something like that brought into current day with the new currency when it comes out, and just kind of see about translating that, because I would assume, and I could be completely off by this, is that even those items that are kind of retroactive, you could still probably purchase with your actual dollar value, not gear coins, right? I would like to see what that's kind of equaling out to for them now. And the other piece that we talked that wasn't answered, and it was kind of answered but wasn't answered, and then we can move on. I kind of enjoy the esports skins that they released to support them, like the Chrome Steel series. But I don't understand, and I would just like to have a clear answer, because I don't feel like Dana can ever provide it, is why are certain skins only limited for like that 1 or 2 weeks, and then you're never going to see them again? Now with the way that the store is going to be brought up, is bring them in and let's keep them in. They're not really supposed to be limited. They're supposed to help provide for the esports section of the game. So keep them in the store permanently once you release them. There's a lot of people that man, I wish I was playing at the time because the game wasn't fun. But yeah, well, that's not an excuse though. That's not an excuse for esports content.
Gets people to buy it.
Yeah. I'm
not disagreeing with you completely. I'm just
I know it's just answered. Then at that point, you should remove Grace and A8 from the store then, because that was there around launch, right? You know what I mean?
The game.
Then they should be gone.
The esports characters have some bizarre thing with them. I mean, it's always been a problem with them. When we done our Crimson's events, Embry or no, they were banned from giveaways. We couldn't give them away.
Yep.
We were never allowed to give those away. So there's some affiliation with something else with those, and then maybe why they're in the store, they only get a limited time. One, I think it's more just to pressurize people to buy them at that point, and then the second is just like I say, there's something that no one will tell us why they're only there for a limited time.
I just feel like it. Yeah, whatever. I just once again it comes down to transparency and communication. Communicate why. That's all I'm
It's,
asking.
it's the
Because
same. It's the same
there's certain
argument for
yeah there's
for
certain
Black
ones that I
Steel.
would like to go back and get. Exactly. There's certain ones I would like to go back and get that
Yeah,
right now I don't know if I'm ever going to see it because I wasn't playing at the time.
Black Steel should come back to Gears. I mean, everyone's asking for it. You know, there's no reason why they can't put them
Supply
in.
and demand.
It's silly. It's nonsense to be like that.
Well, Livo said right there. It's predatory. They want people to feel pressured so that they buy it and don't miss out. It's FOMO. That's the only reason.
They're not the only ones to do that, though.
No, there's-
Well, every game company does it.
Yeah. So it's an interesting change with the Gears coins. I do have a little concern because they haven't given us a huge amount of information on it. We're left to just wait till next week or wait till tomorrow and see. It sounds good in theory, but then I'm reminded back when Gears 4 launched and we had the RNG loot boxes, Gears packs. Sorry, slip there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, devil's advocate, you could say, well, in a lot of games, you complete a level, you do something, you get a chest, right? And then when you open it up, yeah, you get some good stuff, you get some stuff you've already got. It doesn't matter, you can trade it in, do what, It's in a lot of games, isn't it? I mean, but it depends how it's implemented, isn't it? And obviously, it spawned the whole legal thing in politicians and all that looking into the gambling equivalent of it because it's very chance based, isn't it, and addictive in that regards. And I'm afraid it's going to turn into something where that they'll legislate and it'll go too far the wrong way. Can you imagine if in the future you're playing a Mario game and you can't hit the question mark block because that's a game of chance? Are you going to get a flower? Are you going to get a a mushroom? But it doesn't matter to the game, does it? They're all same sort of power things. They're all good, and later on you get another one. It's the implementation, isn't it? That's the key thing. So if it like Halo, for example, when you get I don't know what they're called in their packs of things. Yeah, there are card sets and rec pack. Thank you. But when you open it up, you get one of the cosmetic things. It's then removed from the possible pool. So when you get the next pack, you're not going to get that same cosmetic one again. You're going to get a different one until you've bought so many packs and got them all, and then you just start getting all the kind of skill-based card things and that's fine. I can't think many people. I mean, you're always going to get some people complain about it, but I think that's a more customer-friendly, a player-friendly implementation, isn't it? So, and when we look to the new Gears coins and the changing everything and moving to that again, there's that little trepidation where, well, it sounds good, but it's going to depend on what's our conversion for our scrap, what's the earning rate. Is it going? Are we going to be pulling our hair out next week, or are we actually going to be like feeling quite good about it? And
if I'm honest, it just feels like it's a glorified version of Gears 4. To be honest, it just feels like it's just exactly the same way again. We're going to have the part where we can buy the characters we want, like the Griffin and then the Lambents, and then we just use our coins for sort of like filler content, emblems, blood sprays, all that sort of stuff. I still feel like they're going to make it that you're going to have to buy a character, and then you can unlock the skins with coins.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen.
I think they said you'll get the character if you get it from the store anyway. It unlocks that skin. They're not going to require you to have the base thing anymore. But what were base characters, I guess, are now going to be in the store under the permanent section, I guess.
But I'm just talking like premium sort of characters,
premium things,
the desirable ones, the ones that what people want, and they know they pay for.
Yeah. So I guess we're all kind of, curious to see how this is going to land. It's going to be how close to the bullseye they hit with Gears coins in the store. We're all hoping it's going to be good. I mean, personally, I was trying to decide what to do, whether it's best to use scrap now or to convert to coins and then do them if it is indeed generous. I kind of went halfway. I kind of finished off a few missing blood sprays and banners that I wanted and if I just had one weapon set missing, one weapon missing from the weapon set, and I kind of got that one. I think I end up spending like 2,000 scrap, I think, and then I've basically kept the majority of my hoard of it from playing the game the whole time, and we'll wait and see what that translates to tomorrow. What I can get.
Make sure everyone notes down the scrap you've got today.
Yeah.
See what it equates to tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
the other thing I want to point out was there was I particularly got all of the Maria weapon skins, because I'm thinking if there's going to be sets that they're perhaps not going to include immediately, that stuff that's in supply at the moment that might not necessarily appear straight away after the update, it's going to be something
I think
like
everything in supply currently is supposed to be in the permanent pool.
It's supposed to be, isn't it? But I'm thinking if there is going to be something, it's going to be something featured. It's going to be something with a bit of meaning to it, rather than say like, well, it could be the Hypno as well, I suppose. But like DB set, I'm sure that's going to be there. It's not going to disappear. But something like Maria that might there's some lore there. There's maybe some desirability. Maybe we don't put that one in immediately. So if anyone's worried about, you might want to think about it now, especially if you're just missing one or two. But it's up to you. Obviously, this is the thing that we were all a bit annoyed about, was just trying to get an idea. What's the best thing to do? We're going to end up kicking ourselves tomorrow or in a couple of days and say, "Damn, I wish I'd used more of my scrap," or "Damn, I wish I hadn't used so much scrap."
No direction.
Yeah. It's
Well, I guess we can transfer over now. I guess.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. One last thing on the earning and the progression. One thing that I think Dana slipped out was he said that you'll get Gears coins for doing medals in the Tour of Duty. Now, whether he meant to say that or not, it did suggest that you'd be earning coins as well for medals, as well as progressing through the ranks in the Tour, and obviously repeating the Legend rank. So that's something to look out for, and I'll be checking the Tour of Duty after the update to see if there's any indication.
In terms of the Tour Duty, I could be completely wrong. This is all assumption based, and then we can move into PvE. Is that it appears as if this Tour Duty is going to be heavily focused towards a few unlockables, but mainly earning Gears Gears coins. Sorry, earning Gears coins, where you can then use that currency to go get whatever you need, whether it's through, assuming medals are part of it, medals, and then your actual ranks itself. So I feel like Gears coins is going to be the big piece for this one.
Yeah,
possibly. They did say you'd still be able to earn 500 iron in it, like you did in previous ones, and you've got to imagine that content-wise, like characters and weapon skins and things, because that's mostly done by the arting teams, then you'd imagine that's already been done weeks or months ago. So I'm expecting the tour to be similar sort of content to what we had in Op 3. For sort of, I'm expecting there's going to be something like a Ronin Cantus at the end, and there's going to be a nice design
just like what we have now.
Yeah.
But then all of any mark or banner or emote and stuff like that will be replaced by gear coins.
Yep. Agreed. Yep.
So you think there'll be like specific levels that Gears coins are at? I thought it would be every single level you progressed up, you got some coins. So it wasn't necessarily like a level reward. The level rewards would be much the same we've got now, but every time you went up a level, you got some new coins, because they said it did increase. So I figured like when you're going through private ranks, you get 10 Gears coins each time, and when you go through the lieutenant ones, you get 20 or something. That's how I kind of envisaged it. But this is part of the problem. We're still guessing. We've got no idea. They didn't really kind of lay it on thick, and
it doesn't really matter if we know now or not, though. Like it doesn't.
There's still just issues around it all that no one knows, and we won't know until we get hands on it. That's the issue.
But it's a big so that whole fact that we don't know it and it's an annoying thing. People kind of tie that in with the whole transparency thing that I've discussed for years. And that's one of the items of transparency that I don't think are really necessary. Like us knowing how often we get Gears coins or what the rate is doesn't really affect us at all. It's like, I don't feel like we really need to know, we get them every level or we get them at these set levels. I don't like that. I don't feel like that really affects us at all.
It doesn't really affect us at all, but at the same time, we want to know because we feel like we're always left in the dark on a lot of things, and that's the issue. If we didn't feel like we were left in the dark, because most of the time we feel like me as a player, I feel like we're usually going to be taken advantage of in some form of way. It's going to happen. So I think that's where the concern is all right, you've already beat us up a couple times already now in a couple months or multiple times. And so I got to question this. It's like being in I don't want to do this, but it's kind of like
I
being
say
in
it
a
all
really
the time.
bad relationship.
Abusive relationship.
Yeah, it's an abusive relationship, and you come back for more, and you really shouldn't at the end of the day.
Gears is a devil's drug.
Do you know what might be interesting? Do you
Alrighty.
remember when Octus did I think it was for Gridiron, they actually showed a development build on stream. It would have been kind of nice if they'd been able to give us kind of like a sneak peek of what it looked like post-update.
That's
Those
what
should have been in the dev streams. They should have been.
What I expected.
I like the PowerPoint idea. Go level stuff, but then show like some in-game images or live stuff to get this stuff across the board.
Okay.
Probably in the trailer, but we wouldn't know.
All right, PvE
Hashtag
time.
soon.
Yeah.
PvE
Let's move
time.
over there.
So, I mean, I was blown away. With all the changes with the store and the store stream, I'm thinking, okay, I can see that. I mean, it's going to be Operation 4 store, basically, was what I was thinking where all their effort had gone to. But by Jove, the PvE changes, to me, it read like a 10-month-long wish list that everyone had just been screaming for. Well, still no Iron Man restart without going to lobby, but Michael knows how much I want that. But my goodness, everything else was just obviously the separation of characters and classes is going to come in Operation 5. Although notice how it's in a lot of the blog posts and the PowerPoint presentations. They mentioned classes more than characters. So I think they really, really did try to get it in for Op 4, but just couldn't quite make it. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm surprised about that. I definitely expected that as an Op 5 thing. I was not expecting that to come for Op 4. So
Yeah.
It's surprising that they tried to get it into 4.
Yeah, well, all I expected for 4 was just Horde Frenzy in custom mode. That was about my expectations for Operation 4. So the list is huge, and that's not even that was just the highlights. And poor old Michael, with all his enthusiasm, wanted to tell us every single skill card that was coming. But Dana will.
Of all of the dev streams, Michael seemed to be like the most enthusiastic and like
alive.
It felt like there was a Gears fan talking to us on stream for the first time since Liam left.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yes, and that includes community members.
He was channeling Liam.
Yeah. But, so, for PvE, I played a decent amount in Op 1. I didn't play Gears at all in Op 2. And then Op 3, I basically didn't touch PvE except for a couple challenges. So, I'm debating whether or not I want to go back and try out some Horde and Escape now with these new changes, but I don't know. A lot of it seems like stuff that I had asked for close to launch. So it all sounds good, but as someone who's not really playing PvE, it's hard for me to comment too much on it. I will say the fact that they're only bringing in, it sounds like one class, which would be Paddock.
That's what why is it called Brothers to the End and it's only Paddock with the ability? Yeah. Like, at least give it to Dom if you're calling the operation that.
I mean, what I've been, ever since they announced the classes and character separation thing way back when, I've been saying if they don't continue to have it, like for the next few operations, if they don't continue to have at least 2 new classes with each option, then it's a complete failure. And I class come in here is a failure.
Yeah. So to tag on to that, they have a great foundation. As much as people probably don't like it, Gears Pop does really well with what they can work with inside that game to help define roles for these particular characters or heroes or however you want to label it. I really feel like if they use that as a template of some kind to make newer classes if they're out of ideas, for example, which I don't know if they are or aren't, but if they would implement things like that, we could probably see these things come around really quick. Like, Dom in that game is like a support role in a way, and they do really well with how they implement those type of things. So that's just one of the things to tag into what you were saying, is that they don't do more, it's a failure. I would agree.
I mean, one thing that they could do is they mentioned how it's hard. They not only need to find a spot in the meta that a class could fit, but they need to figure out a way to tie that character and a personality with the current system, and that's what splitting it out in the future will do. But they've already announced that they're splitting it out. Why not just give Dom a class, even if they don't feel that it's really that fitting of Dom? Some of their classes aren't that fitting to begin with, but just put a class on there. It's going to get split out next operation anyways.
Yeah, and then I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Well, okay. So with that said, right? Well, actually, CogCouple, do you have any thoughts on any of this before I go? Since Embry lost his train of thought.
Like I say, I mean, we're not big PvE sort of players. We were. This is what I've said. We enjoyed it in Gears 4, but the changes they made to Gears 5 just made it not something that we enjoyed. More so with Horde. It was strange. I think the only event that I liked was the Terminator one for the Horde.
I did like that.
Was good.
And,
that was
and it
fun.
never came back.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, okay. Like Juvie Madness was always fun. It's just, and he was Horde Frenzy. It's only now they've actually put that in, but it's just
So-
it's not really captivated us in a
So
way.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Embry.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is, I think one of the main problems right now, just from a PvE standpoint, is the enemy variety for me. Like, it's not to get too off topic, but like, as much as they keep adding classes or whatever, it's just it boils down to the same enemy types and the same meta. Like, I think we were spoiled back in the day because we had the Locust and Lambent, like right before we shifted to all of this, and then on top of that, Escape is only Swarm on top of it. So
Yeah, I
we
mean,
need more enemy variety for all of this to take place, even, or like have a better hold, because they got rid of healers. Like the Scion doesn't even heal anymore, as far as I know. Their flusher classes are not fun. Besides, I would say Juvies and Poppers are all right, but they're pretty much wretches. But the new ones they added, I don't know anyone who really likes rejects and leeches. Rejects and leashes are the new flushing types, so there needs to be some more variety on the opposition end to like engage PvE. Or at least that's in my opinion. I'm not sure if that'll come around in Gears 5, but that's one point of contention I still have with Gears 5.
Yeah,
And just modern Gears in general.
I don't foresee that happening in 5.
I know.
Yeah.
I could hope. I'll keep asking though.
Well,
keep asking all the time.
You should. I'm going to take and run with this a little bit because I feel like I have a little bit of a leg up with kind of what my focus has been since I've been on the scene. And as of more recently with like Escape, like master tutorials and things of that sort. So I kind of want to piggyback into this. So some of the things that I have issues with, and this is not just myself, this is other players giving me feedback and thinking that I can do something with it. And I may not have a loud voice, but I hope the voice can be heard at times, is I'm going to start with kind of what to expect in the future with the separation of classes. There's certain cards like, that buff certain characters like Marcus or Lizzie or Clayton, like if you're within a certain distance of a certain character.
I almost forgot about that.
So, or Lizzie having freezing bullets. So if Lizzie makes a turret, does that become a freezing turret? Like that would be cool. But
God, I hope so.
that things like that. Like I don't know what they're going to do. But like Lizzie would then become like the best engineer in the game, even though she's not an engineer by trade in this game. Things like that. Like that would be pretty awesome. So what's going to happen with like Daddy's Boy or Uncle Clay, those particular cards? And the other,
real quick, the cards are not staying with the character.
well, that
I'm pretty sure the cards are staying with the class.
I would assume, yeah, I would assume that's right. I guess what I was hoping to get out of it was, are we going to start renaming some cards, or are they gonna?
I think they are going. I mean, there's not that many cards that are like specific to the character, are there?
There's a few more than you may think, and then like there's some more that tie into Sarah Connor and Grace, for example. Then you have the Carmine ones. You have the like Marcus and JD ones. So there's quite a few out there, but
honestly, they could leave the card names the same. Probably they just have to change the descriptions of how they work.
So you got. Yep. So you got the cards, like, things like that to think about. Like, I think that they need to streamline that a little bit to make it a little bit more clear. The other piece of it is like, engineers are not getting their own perks. So if engineers don't have their own perks, and people are randomly and freely buying stuff from the fabricator, I've tried to defend it to some extent, but people really push back on it. And it makes sense is, if you're playing in a public scenario, custom lobby, or through matchmaking, and you get randomly assigned with 4 or 3, 2 other people, and then they're starting to buy sentries and barriers, you as an engineer, which that's your job, at the front end of the game, it's the cost is like for everybody, it's all streamlined. But if you're the engineer and you're buying all these things, eventually the cost of the barrier becomes pretty pricey. So then it's good for those other players to start tackling the ability to buy these barriers as sentries, but then allowing the engineer to do their job with upgrading and keeping them repaired and things of that sort. But I feel like it's going to get a little problematic, especially in custom lobbies. So I feel like they should implement some type of feature to prevent players from having the ability to go up to the fab and say, oh, I'm going to buy all this stuff. Like, allow it in the custom lobby, if you're the host, to prevent that from being a thing, if they can. The other piece that I'd like to see is with those type of cards that require you to be within a certain radius of a particular individual, is start giving us some in-game mechanics of how far that distance actually is. Because I don't really know what 25 Unreal unit engine or whatever y'all call it is, like Unreal units. I think that's what they call the distance in the game through the developer tools, through the Unreal Engine. So like, I hate to use references to other games, but use a game like if anybody's played it, like World of Warcraft or those type of games where they give you some type of like measuring tools of some type of distance and measuring system to understand how these cards can work in tandem. And then the other piece that I don't like is there's downloadable content such as Grace and Sarah Connor and all of them. Some are good, some are bad. And the fact that they're kind of like leaving it alone and kind of saying, well, I don't know, we're not going to touch that. Well, that doesn't really make sense, because then that class is pretty much useless at times. Like Grace, as a paid $20 character, more or less, to use in Horde and Escape, has very limited viability.
But they don't want those to be good characters, because they don't want it to be paid.
But that's the thing, though. We say that, but then on the developer stream, they're saying, well, we kind of made these classes out of necessity. So if it's just filler, then it shouldn't be $20 for a promotional skin. Like, yeah. Or that's all I'm saying. Like, if you're just giving me filler content, it shouldn't be $20. Like, yeah, some people may like, oh, that's a waste of money, but she's a cool looking character. She does look a little weird, but it's cool. Her abilities do have a place.
Cool looking.
It's just different. That's all I'm saying. It's not what we know. So I like having the promotional stuff in the game personally. It adds a little bit of a fun dynamic to me, like the Run the Jewels and the Griffins, although Griffin was kind of a part of it. But, my point being, there's just a few issues that they have, and I would hope that they think about these things, or they like reach out to the community, whether it's in some form of discussion post, because again, they're going to go back to the store topic. You're going to alienate them in some ways, and they're going to get upset and pissed off. And they're going to be loud. They're not going to be as loud as the multiplayer community, because they've been on the back burner the most. And then also, Escape is a pretty fun mode. I love Escape the most out of all the modes in the game. And it was kind of like, we're going to continue working on it, but really not.
It wasn't even mentioned in the...
It wasn't really talked about, which Escape is the new premier mode. I mean, they brought it on the E3 stage, for God's sake.
Like, even their initial announcement, Escape was not mentioned in that post. Even when they said, oh yeah, there's going to be new maps and characters, they should have said, like, new maps, characters, and hives or something.
Yeah, there was none of that. So a very interesting things to think about for PvE, and that's why I wanted to run away with it, because I get feedback like in Twitter DMs and all these other places all the time about like, have we thought about this? I'm like, oh, that's a good point. Like, these are real life issues that people like to like nerf, or I'm sorry, buff Cat, for example. You know, like, she's an engineer. Why is she useless in Escape and Horde? Like, you promoted a Halo character, and a lot of the promotional characters were promoted pretty heavily. Like, so, honestly, so I don't know, just little things to think about.
Something engineer related I wanted to throw out there to make them stay relevant was, what if every character could build all of the fortifications like they're making this change for, but the engineer was the only one who could upgrade? Or they add a caveat where if there's no engineer in your lobby, then anyone
Yes, that's what there needs to be. There's got to be some type of like role positioning system that takes place to determine these factors, like in the game, like a roll call or roll check, and then like they say, okay, well, we can see there's none of this, so this now we can open it up to anybody to upgrade them or whatever.
Yeah.
Some type of system that runs in the background or right in front of you. And I also posted out a suggestion for us PC players, or actually people actually took a good interest and said the same thing for controller players or keyboard and mouse players, is when you're buying something from the fabricator, you should be able to like press an input to quickly buy something from that selection menu, because right now it's like, oh, you got to move it around, and like you should be able to quickly identify, like use some type of key system. My suggestion from today. And the changes of bringing the escape players into Horde and having their perks reworked was one of the brightest moves, and something I'm really excited about for those who love those characters. I'm really excited to see Alani potentially become really viable with a Venom Blade and Thrill the Hunt and being able to go slay things and just tear them to shreds, especially like high level cards. That's gonna be fun. Sorry. Go ahead. Actually, last piece. They need to implement health points. Like, give me the actual amount of health that these enemies have. Like, let me know what they actually have. When I go play a boss, I don't know how much health they have. I'm just watching that thing gauge. Like, I know how much damage Lonnie or these characters are hitting per shot with my weapon, but I don't want to sit there and calculate, oh, this enemy has X amount of health every time. Like, I should be able to have this information real time.
Sounds like an episode of Chaps Math.
Well, I don't want to go through that.
Okay.
I'm not.
But you get my point. You get my point. This information should be available to us, whether with the new current system of having these things on display.
They made a big deal. So I did all those calculations in Gears 4, and like Ryan and what?
I said how'd it go after they patched it.
Yeah, and then I gave up. But like I talked to Ryan and Liam about like, yeah, can we get this stuff more visible? And they said, yeah, we'll talk to you. We'll try and figure out like what people want to see, and we'll try and publish some of this information and make it known. And nothing ever came of that, and it really sucks.
Well, these are small quality life improvements that would make like an Operation 4 where, like I said, it's the groundwork. If they implemented these type of features inside the game, it's a quality of life feature. It makes the game more fun to play. It makes you understand more about what you're doing, other than like, oh, I'm just going to go kill this monster. You know, like I have real-time information in front of me about kind of like how to play the scenario out. That's quality of life improvements.
Well, one change I'm looking forward to, and I'm also concerned for it at the same time, is they said they reworked how much damage is coming in or the amount of health you have at higher difficulties. Because, like, for the last 2 Gears games, maybe you could even say Gears 3 as well, but in that time, once you get to the higher difficulties, all it is just waiting for the sentries to do everything. Like, you're just pinned down the entire time. You can't move. It's like that in Master as well. And when you go and play it on easier levels, like, yeah, you can move around and do a lot more, but the game in and of itself is a lot more enjoyable. So I'm hoping with what these health changes are making in PvE, it still gives you that challenge, but it's just not up, down, up, down, up, down the whole time.
So I've got a decent PvE topic, but does anyone else have something to add before I kind of change gears on it?
So let's
I just
see.
want
Go
I
ahead.
see someone mentioned like about the Sundance media contract. I wasn't really trying to say like, yeah, it's a $20 content to the game, like the A8, for example. But they tied Grace to a particular style class with her skills, and you're locking that class in its current state today. I don't know how it's going to become Operation 5, but you're locking that type of content behind it. So it's underwhelming for a class design is, I guess, what I'm trying to get to. In its current state with the current escape hives, because she's not viable in Horde at all. Anyways, to you two.
Yeah, I think that's clearly she was just a promotional period for during the film, really, wasn't it? It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was out of necessity, and they didn't want it to be that impressive because then it's paid to win, and they honestly didn't really know what to do with it anyway. And I'm guessing it must have been chucked at them at the last minute. We need to do this promotion in there. What can you slap together? We'll just have to let Grace be and see what they do. It'd be interesting whether they retool those types of classes or whether they just put them on the back burner. The only thing that's going to be concerning is for these classes, the progress people will have made, they don't want to lose. So they can't just up and like get rid of that class and just say, well, you can play as engineer or tank or whatever you want to be with Grace.
No, they're keeping all of the existing classes.
Yeah. So they have to keep it because otherwise people get annoyed at losing the progress.
Yeah.
So, and then it's like they're going to have to just tweak it over time and see what they can adjust them to. But one thing to mention, I was quite surprised that we're getting this now. I thought this would be an Op 5 thing or something, would be the level 6 cards. And along with that was the promise that in a future update, he didn't say in a future operation, he said in a future update. So I'm quietly optimistic this could be during Op 4, unless I'm insane, that you'll be able to, well, he said scrapping, but it's not scrapping anymore, is it? But converting the duplicates you've got into Gears coins.
They said it would be Op 4, by the way. It is.
Oh, it is Op 4.
Michael said that it would be Op 4.
Sweet, there you go. Okay, excellent. But obviously, the first 20 cards you've got in any of your existing card types at the moment, when you update, you'll be able to upgrade to level 6 for your cards. So for all the ones where you've got in excess of 30, 50 or 70 odd for a particular rare or common card, you straight away be able to upgrade a load of them to level 6, which is exciting, and they've not been wasted, and I'm glad that I was one of the I put my hand up and everyone can yell at me. I was one of the vocal ones on the dev streams that said I don't want, when they said they were going to auto scrap cosmetics, I said, oh, please don't auto scrap the skill cards, I want to save them to level 6, and I somewhat regretted that since now a little bit, but I'm glad ultimately in the end, because now it does mean I'm going to be able to upgrade a lot of cards to level 6. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward. But the other thing that was very quietly touched on was them adjusting the progression curve. And he said, what's the point in grinding another 10 cards, duplicates, and upgrading from level 4 to level 5 if all I'm getting is a 1 faster second or 1% more damage, right? And he said they're going to adjust the progression curve, meaning there's going to be bigger gaps, and 10%, 20% is going to be more worthwhile upgrading. Now, he didn't quite say whether that meant, because pessimist here, in the past when they've adjusted values, they've kind of taken what was level 4, made it level 5, and then adjusted all the ones below it. Meaning you didn't get anything more. They just adjusted the tiers. Now I'm worried that that's going to be the same sort of thing here. Although level 6 will have to be better than level 5, surely, just by logical thought. But whether the level 4s are reduced or something for that curve, I don't know. I hope not.
I think it's going to be just like the perks. When they launched the game, the perk system was terrible. There was a lot of diminishing returns as you increased the amount that you were spending. You were getting less and less. There was an optimal edge on that curve of where you should stop, and it's basically the same way with skill cards, where you're spending more and you're getting less and less. And I think they're going to try and flatten that curve, maybe make it more of a straight line. If you plotted up the number of cards or the amount of scrap you're spending to upgrade versus the benefit that you're getting from it. So yeah, they are going to be reducing some of the lower level cards in order to flatten that out for it. But yeah, I think level 6 will need to be higher than what the level 5 is currently.
You'd hope so. I'm reminded of back in the day when Mac's bleeding card, before it got nerfed, we're all hoping that level 6 will bring some of that
That
back.
was ridiculous at launch.
Okay, maybe not quite that bad, but somewhere in between. They nerfed him bad, poor guy.
The other two things to think about with the PvE update that we haven't really talked about, I may have just lost my train of thought on one of them, but the other one is that, in future, in the Operation 5, well, actually, I can't say that because it's not confirmed, and hopefully in a future operation, they have the ability to, I guess, take your excess cards and move them into Gears coins, right? But there's no guarantee. And and the second piece is I still, for the life of me, don't understand why the number one issue with Escape and Horde failures is no ability to restart and on the same lobby from once you fail Iron Man. Like, I just can't fathom why this is not.
It's hard to do, but yeah, God, that's a really
It takes so much time.
And I love going for those challenges and stuff. And once I got to the level where it was like, okay, I want to start doing these Iron Man things, the fact that I had to wait so long to load for all these Iron Man things, that's basically when I stopped playing Escape.
It does, and it takes away the fun from it because there's like, oh my god, I gotta go wait.
So I stopped playing Escape.
Yeah, you're taking away my enjoyment because I want to be quick and fast with this. It takes forever to load.
So one
Even
of
on
the
PC.
yeah,
even on PC, yeah, agreed.
which is way faster at loading. But all right, so one of the big things for Escape and Horde that I think would have made this operation just amazing for PvE is the whole modifiers thing. Some people in chat knew I was about to bring this up, and so they mentioned that they are going to be trying to bring in some new modifiers and like even maybe bringing some of the Escape ones over to Horde. But I think a fundamental issue with Gears 5's modifier system is that your difficulty is linked to your modifiers.
Yep.
If you can split that out and have, I want to play on casual, but have these other modifiers on, it opens up the possibilities of what you can do. It gives the players more freedom. They can play lower difficulty. Like maybe I'm not a good player. I want to play on casual, but I want to have that invincible Scion walking around on the Wanderer. That type of thing. And then same goes for Horde. The other thing that it really does is it introduces the ability to have easy and neutral modifiers. That was a huge thing in Gears 3 where you could have super active reload, you could have vampire, you could have big head mode. All of these things that are either easy or fun that you can't have right now because if you turn them on, it's going to increase your difficulty. I don't think it's something that they're going to be able to change for Gears 5 because I think it's too grounded in the way that they made their system. But I feel like it's a really big miss that hopefully they can acknowledge, or not acknowledge, but that they can see so that in the future, like Gears 6 or whatever, they don't make that same mistake.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll see skulls in Gear 6 though, like fog and and what is it? Was it fog? Or which one is it that messes about with your UI? Because they definitely won't want blind. Thank you. Yeah,
takes away your.
They'll definitely not have blind because they don't want anything getting in the way of you seeing that great big giant red omen that's covered in blood.
Yeah,
but
no, it's such a big miss in my mind. Like being able to have set your difficulty and that changes what your score multiplier is, and then change your modifiers. In each modifier, not every modifier adds the same difficulty or makes it easier by a certain amount. They can all have different levels of multipliers. Maybe this adds 1.25 to your score, and this other one adds 1.15 to your score. Like, you can have so much more variety.
What would the difficulty be, though? Because the way I'm thinking of it, if you wanted difficulty to be separate from modifiers, you'd probably have to remove the more health and the more lethal modifiers, so they don't exist as modifiers anymore, and the difficulty increases those on a step. And then modifiers are actual things like, there could be difficulty ones, like those blasted ice.
More pouncers, more juvies,
or,
big head mode, super active reload, like all of those. Go play Gears 3.
Yeah,
Gears 3 has them separated out, and it works wonderfully.
Yeah, but does it get a bit complicated then? Because remember that a lot of the things they're trying to do now is simplify things. Does that make it a bit complicated for people? Where it's like, oh, what difficulty? Oh, and I need to pick modifiers, and they're trying to keep it simple for new entry.
I think that it actually simplifies things, because I can't tell you the number of people right now where if you load up Escape and you turn on more pouncers, more juvies, and more drones or something like that, you turn on those 3 things, people think those are the only changes that happen to the mode. People do not realize that on the back end, enemies are getting more health and doing more damage. It's not clearly communicated right now, and I think that separating them out would give players more options and more clearly communicate what is actually going on.
Well, we do always wonder if I don't know, have they confirmed that there's stuff going on in the background? We've always suspected. I mean, certainly when it comes between the jump between Inconceivable
they actually haven't
and
said
Master.
Anything. They haven't said anything about it happening in the background, but you can easily go in and test by going on casual and getting shot by a drone, and then turning on some other stuff and getting shot, and see how much damage it does.
I say they're more alert, aren't they? And they're a lot more ruthless. And certainly when you go between Inconceivable
and they do
Master,
more damage. Even if you don't turn on a more damage modifier, they will do more damage. I also wanted to hit on, someone in the chat asked about the Terminators and what they're doing. From what I understand, they're increasing the lights on the Terminator so that they're more visible now, as well as they are increasing the geometry or the size of stuff somewhat. They still have the same hitbox as every other character, but think of like the Rev 9 is basically a skeleton. It seems like they are
bulking them out a bit.
They're bulking it up a little bit so that it's more visible.
Because that's the thing. It's funny how they keep defending. Oh, it's the same hitbox, and it's like, yeah, but hitboxes are invisible, so we can't shoot at a hitbox. We're shooting at a skin, and if it's a very thin skin, it's like with Lani as well. She's so much shorter than the other characters.
You're literally shooting a shadow.
Yeah, you're like shooting. You think, I think that will get it. And then it does make me wonder if some of the aim assist things, like, I shouldn't have been able to hit that person. Yeah, but their hitbox is extending out beyond their character. You just can't see it. You're getting a kill. But, it's hard to tell, isn't it? That you'd have to be on their side to see what those bits are like. But yeah, they're going to bulk it up and they're going to add more lights, which should be good. I'm expecting another video from CogCouple, Paul, on your challenge attempt number 2 once it's out to see how if you managed to meet your same time in hiding or not.
No, I was going to get the Rev 9 and do it, but I just couldn't do it.
So I just saw a chat saying Neon needs to go somewhat soon.
Okay.
So you want to move on to the? I guess we can't talk about the patch notes.
Can't really talk about the patch notes. They're not out yet. Still not out. I keep looking.
It's 6 p.m. almost.
I know, right?
Isn't that this afternoon, Dana?
It's technically evening.
The developer stream would be over by now. Almost.
Yeah.
It's 7 p.m. where I am, so I mean, it's coming up on 4 where they are, I guess. It's still technically afternoon.
Oh, it's still 4, is it? Okay, they got a little bit like that. It's going to be like last minute, isn't it? 4.
But I mean, yeah, think about where their audience is. The fact that all you guys overseas, it's a little late for you.
Just a bit.
It's been like that since the Gears 5. That's the problem with the news. It just comes out so. Well, Gears 4 was a bit more structured. Now it's just chaos through the week.
Yeah. Well, this goes back into things. This is probably why they can't talk about things last week, because they're typing up the patch notes because they don't know.
How do we get it? We get Monday. What's it? What this week in Gears Monday, what's up?
Which is
Gears
hilarious that it's called
Tuesday,
Gears, when a lot of the stuff they're talking about
and
is
then a
actually
stream
happening this
Thursday.
week.
People literally will hit you up on Twitter and say, "Hey, what's the esports store? What's the store looking like?" Because you don't know until you actually log in to look on the day of on the drop on Tuesdays. But yeah, I guess we can move into final thoughts. Like kind of speed round this if we could.
Yeah. All right, let's go down the line. Ace, you wanna actually Neon? We'll go backwards.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll finish on Ace.
So I just want to go back and I'll do like a 2-minute spiel. Is basically Operation 4 is going to be a groundwork. This is all about laying the foundation for future operations. And while on the surface, it has a lot of great things, I'm very weary. I've tweeted this out multiple times. I want to be serious with you all. Like on the surface level, this is great, but truly, I think that there is still some hesitation and my words, sketchiness involved with it. I do feel the grind for coins could be problematic. I do feel like PvE. I would like to know a little bit more about what type of events are scheduled because Michael was phenomenal in his first dev stream, and I would like to see him on there more. He alluded to events coming in the future, so I would like to see those come out and have some variety and not just copy and paste of things that we did in Gears 4 because I don't want to do that. And most importantly, I think that we need to really temper expectations on what to expect from the ranking system and to prepare for the first few weeks of it to not work because that's usually how things go. And lastly, I think that we need to do a good job on proper communication and providing proper feedback to the developers on things that we have issues with that are core to the game, and not so much like skins and maps. The maps are coming. I truly believe they're coming, and I think we're going to get hit with a lot of them next time. But I truly don't like to see the same things in the developer streams because it's just like wasted space, and they love to answer those questions a million times over for some reason. But ultimately, my plea to the coalition, if I had the chance to like sit here and talk to them one like face to face, is to do a better job on. I'm not saying anybody in particular, but just do a better job on answering the more in-depth questions. And if you don't know it, try to get back to us or allow us to tag you. And I understand that there's a community manager position available or flawed. I don't know. I don't understand what's actually happening with that position, but regardless, that's not an excuse. This is a AAA title from one of the biggest companies in the world. And the fact that we have such terrible communication around things of future updates or current things that are happening and overlooking bugs and glitches and fixing things that actually make people want to play, like XP glitches and things of that nature. Those are not ruining the game. It was built like that, like the ribbon farming method that was adjusted a couple of months back. Like, focus on the things that matter, not little things that you can do overnight and then piss off the community, something that I completely forgot about until now. Like, let's just have better communication and be more active and try to get people that really care about the game and not just their viewership on streams. And that's what I got to say.
Nice.
Right on.
Yeah. Before we go to Embry, there was a question in the chat from Bullet Sponge. Are we going to get the update and then we're going to have to wait hours until the actual update is applied in game? And they've said on the dev stream, no, this time when the update goes, everything's going to be there. We're not going to have to wait for them to turn anything on in the back end. But we are going to get some maintenance. It's going to be down beforehand. I'm not quite sure on the timing of that. It was kind of confusing from Dana. I think it's morning tomorrow. It's morning Tuesday for him. So whatever that equates to your time zone, expect some hours of downtime. But okay, yep. Embry, your final thoughts?
Yeah, Neon touched on a big chunk of
Yeah,
my sentiments. He pretty much said almost verbatim what I said, but basically what I want to say is I appreciate the community for being as level-headed as they can, given how long we've been putting up with a lot of stuff. All I'm asking for everyone to do is keep being constructive and keep pressure on, I guess is the word I would use. Like, just forgive, don't forget for a lot of things going on. Remember, we're the consumer base. They're the producers of the product. So, like, we just have to find a consensus in terms of this is what we need to accomplish. This is what we need to talk about in a reasonable manner. Like, you don't have to bum rush or make people or do personal attacks on anyone. It's not necessary. It doesn't help anyone. Just be as constructive as you can. But that being said, Operation 4, I'm hopeful, but also my expectations are at an all-time low at this stage. So everyone just keep your expectations in check, if at all possible. Don't expect something super crazy tomorrow. Expect frustrations, but hopefully it just keeps going up from here because Gears really needs a W right now. Yeah, that's all I got.
Right,
Breaking news, everyone on the stream.
Yeah.
Dana's tweeted, "Sorry, everyone, there was a publishing issue. Patch notes will be up in the next 20 to 30 minutes, so set your watches and get ready to tweet them back."
Minutes, well,
we're waiting. Yeah. Bless him, poor bloke. I want to take just a second just to say, poor Dana. He's on his own now. He hasn't got Liam to absorb some of the slings and the arrows. Bless him.
No more Liam as a human shield. Meat shield,
Right.
Sorry.
Meat shield. Nice.
Toxic comment, meat shield.
Okay.
CogCouple, your final thoughts, Paul?
Say it's the same. I mean, there's not much else you can really say other than what everyone else is saying. Tomorrow's going to be emotional, but like I say, it's going to take time for whatever they're done to be implemented and start to work. So like Leon and Embry have said, it's just about feedback. I know a lot of people feel like they're never listened to. Only certain people get listened to and replies from them. But I mean, what I'm telling everyone is the forum seems to be about the best place to put your feedback on now. I know it's not ideal, but it just seems like they're focused a little bit more on the forum now. And there's Dana's putting posts on there now about the beta playlists. The changes may not be coming as quick as people want, but at least it's there, and if it's constructive and well written, then it should be taken on board. But hopefully it all works. I think the ranking and the Gears points and the Gears coins are going to be the big talking point over the next few weeks. So we just need to be patient with them. And I'm sure we'll all be having fun in a month's time when Op 5 comes out and new maps.
Also, I don't know if anyone knows this, but the new community manager is TC Sarah, SERA, as in the planet. I don't know. I just went on the forums because he said that, and I noticed that there, so figured I'd let anyone know.
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess I'm last now.
He's going to be doing the coalition account. They're not going to unmothball Liam's one, Octus, or
it's too tied to the community to mothball it.
Yeah,
I need proof from Dana, but we may get an announcement of an announcement.
Woo!
Oh, it's commented on the size of the note. He said they're extensive, so we could be up all night reading them. We'll have to get together and probably do another stream over the patch notes by the sounds of things. Right, chaps.
Yeah, so I mean, Operation 4 was one of those things where people had high expectations, and then they saw that there weren't a ton of maps and new modes, and they got really disappointed. You should have been expecting that all along. So if you didn't have those high expectations, you then read the patch notes and you realize, wow, there's a lot of really necessary changes coming. These PvE things, the store things, the rank changes. It's some really good stuff. It really is that Operation Lifeboat. And then, as Neon said, and as we've talked about throughout this stream, while all of those things seem really nice, once you start digging down into some of the details, a lot of questions start to come up. And even though they've had blog posts about each of these topics, they didn't really answer a lot of these questions that have a lot of us pretty concerned. I'm really interested to see how things turn out tomorrow. The coalition they're on the right track, but they still haven't earned my trust back. So right now I'm cynic about it.
Didn't Rod earn your trust in Gears 4?
No, they started to earn some of my trust back in Gears 4, but I don't know.
How's that going, everyone here? You feel trusted? Also, oh, never mind. Ace, you want to end it?
Right now, say it's fine before I do my
Well,
roundup.
I want to add one more piece to this conversation for people. Like, I think I speak for myself, but I feel like I can probably represent us as a group here. Is that this discussion that we're having is actually real stuff and not fake hype and not like everything. You know what I mean? Like, I really want to make this clear. Like, this conversation is the type of conversations our community should be having, and not like relying on. I'm not taking anything away from people, but not relying on certain folks or community people to persuade you one way or the other. Like, there's always good, but they're not looking at it in a way of like, okay, there's some analytical things and other caveats and things that people need to think about. And so I just want to say, me personally, having this conversation with you all has been fun because it's been very thoughtful. It's witty. It makes you think. It's really great conversation, and it's not fake hype and not trying to use the word gas every 5 seconds. I'm too old for this crap. So anyways, that's what I got to say. It's been a pleasure to actually be able to be a part of it. So thank you.
Aww.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done a thing like this, and I kind of miss it. It's really nice being able to discuss Gears with people like this. So Ace, thanks for putting this together, man.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks very
thanks.
much. I'm glad you enjoyed it so much. I'll be sure to drag you guys on again then. You've all just confirmed that you'll be up for another one.
Do it after patch
I'm
notes
always
get
up
released.
for it. I'm always up for talking Gears.
Right, so okay, that leaves me to round off with my thoughts, I think. So it's interesting. It's been a whirlwind of a week. I think before last week, expectations were low. They're like, yeah, here we go, another operation. It's going to be another tour again. I thought we'd get Custom Frenzy, and I thought that would be enough to kind of keep me going through another op. Obviously, like maps and characters is all graphical teams and like wireframe testing and arting and stuff. So those are going to take 6 months, as they've said. So you're not going to see a huge increase of them till Op 5 and so forth. So I was just hoping for it to be PvE fixes. And I thought they were going to be small fixes, not a huge amount. So I'm really impressed with the amount of things they've done in PvE. It's literally like 10 months worth of wish lists there being addressed. As we've said, we're all a little concerned with exactly how the numbers are going to work for some of these new things. It all sounds really good in theory. In practice, is it going to hit the mark, or is it going to be more growing pains? But here's hoping that they'll sort it out and we'll get there. I encourage everyone to try the ranked, even if you're not a ranked player, and give it a go. Give them some data to work with, and I'm looking forward to getting back into Horde, having not really played it since Gears 4. So I'm excited for that. It's quite a shift from being kind of mopey about it last week to now. I'm really kind of excited and hopeful going forward. I can't wait to upgrade my cards and to play some rank with my buddies, knowing that I'm a silver gold player, but that don't matter. We're going to have fun as a team, and just all the little tweaks. Looking forward to being able to see the other team who's in a squad, who isn't, and just little bits like that, really. And obviously, the big one's going to be Operation 5 with the class separation, and then I think that's probably about the majority of things that turned people off the game, I should think, and hopefully we'll get quite a few coming back. And yeah, so that's it for the game really. I'm hoping my scrap and my decisions are going to be good tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll just be quietly cursing to myself. Um, but yeah, and that's about it, I think, for the game. For the stream, I want to thank immensely these excellent for giving up their time and coming in with a stream with lonely old me. They've all got fabulous YouTube channels and videos um, that have done fantastic content. And if you don't know any of them, I question, if you've been paying a lot of attention, but definitely check. They're worth it. Neon's medal guys will help you try and rush through anything you're missing last minute. And if you did want to see how long you can sneak around as a Terminator, definitely check out CogCouple's video. And likewise, BChaps has got some excellent statistical things that you'll love to watch, as well as all his ideas on far better control schemes, which never know, maybe you're not 5, eh? I want to thank everyone in the stream. I want to thank the mods for jumping in and modding it for me last minute. All the viewers for stopping by and watching and listening to us um, gas on about. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. You didn't want me to say that. Chat on about about our feelings and concerns and what we're excited about. And yeah, got to thank the coalition. Got to feel for them in some respects. You've got to take the criticism with the praise, and likewise praise where praise is due. And we're quietly optimistic. So let's hopefully move on forward, and looking forward to enjoying a more fun game, re-injecting the fun back into Gears 5. I think that will kind of do it really. We've been going for like over 3 hours now. I'm sure everyone's
we could go
tired.
4 if you want to keep going. I got it.
Well, I've got nothing else to do. I mean, yeah. If we'd had the patch notes, we could have probably gone for like another hour.
Yeah, well, I'm done. I'm praying for River. Let's hope we get River in these patch notes.
What?
I love River. I want River. Let me have it.
We won't be done till we get River.
Everyone wants River.
I guess I'll just die,
you can have Blood Drive.
Settle for Gridlock and you'll be happy.
Yeah. It may be
All
next.
right.
Awesome.
What about Gridlock? I thought that's got to become next, isn't it? Or BChaps wanted Gridlock.
Top tip, Embry. If you want River, ask for Blood Drive.
I need Blood Drive for the 4th or 5th time. How'd you know? Okay, I'm out.
All right.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching. Thanks, guys.